Fate has always loved to cruelly mock human lives, for example, through war. One moment, the main character was caught in a hail of shots, and the next he found himself among beautiful girls. His name is Lu Man, which means pervert in Chinese, and he's a member of the Divine Eagle Special Forces unit. Our hero's number was 007. Due to the fact that the soldier opened fire on his own during the operation, he was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. After this, Lu Man was sent to Haidong University, which was merged with the middle school. He could get rid of his psychological trauma through therapy, which would allow him to live the life of an ordinary student. A girl was riding a bicycle fast and shouting at everyone to quickly make way for her. Everyone around managed to react to the warning, but the main character did not hear it. As a result, she crashed into the guy with great force. Lu Man accidentally touched the stranger's body, which made her feel awkward. The girl screamed and told him to take his hands off. It turned out that the stranger was an incredible beauty, and our hero liked her. The guy jokingly called her a witch because she called him a pervert, but at the same time it was his name too. The girl didn't understand why he was so happy when they shouted at him. The protagonist explained the origin of his name and asked the stranger's class, then remarked that the girl should thank the guy, because if it weren't for him, she would be lying on the ground like a dog. She was outraged by Lu Man's insulting words and noticed that this was the same guy who crashed into her, but now did not apologize to her or help her lift her bicycle. Lu Man said that he was in a hurry to get to class, so he didn't have time to help the stranger. These words made her very angry, and she noted that she would not let our hero leave. The girl wanted to get closer to Lu Man, but accidentally tripped. As a result, the beauty was unable to maintain her balance. With her movement, she knocked the guy off his feet and fell on top of him. Due to such close contact with the girl, the main character began to have a nosebleed. The stranger herself blushed deeply and screamed from the indignation in which they found themselves. Then the beaten Lu Man arrived at the teacher's room and, as in the army, reported his arrival. The teacher mentally noticed a strange red spot on the student's cheek and noted that this boy did not need to be saluted at school. The husband saw in the documents that the main character used to be a soldier, and Lu Man asked him not to tell anyone about this, because perhaps someone would want to fight with him and harm someone. The teacher assured that there would be no problems and allowed the student to go to class. Lu Man forgot about the request and saluted again. However, the teacher's reaction made him realize that he had made a mistake. The events then move to the classroom, where students interact with each other in an informal setting. One of the students asked Chin Chin if everything was okay. It turned out that Chin Chin was a stranger whom the main character had met quite recently, and she was very unhappy with his behavior. Her friend asked if they knew each other again as San Li and San Xiao, but the girl explained that it was a guy named Lu Man. Soon the teacher entered the classroom, and all the students, of course, paid attention to her. He introduced them to a new student who would now study with them. Lu Man introduced himself to the class and expressed his hope for friendship with his classmates. Chin Chin immediately recognized him as the pervert she met on her way to school. The main character also recognized the girl. The teacher noticed that the students already knew each other, so he invited the boy to sit at the empty desk behind Chin Chin and asked her to keep an eye on the new student. The girl really didn't like this order from the teacher. The main character was glad to be next to an incredible beauty. Meanwhile, the teacher asked the students to take their notebooks to continue working on the lesson. Lu Man heard the girl next to him say that he was a pervert who upset her friend. The guy noticed that the neighbor on the other side of the house was quite beautiful. He decided to meet the girl, but she didn't seem to be in the mood. The neighbor didn't even want to touch the pervert's hands, which she considered disgusting. Meanwhile, Chin Chin quietly laughed at the way her friend scolded Lu Man. From her reaction, the main character realized that the girls were best friends. The protagonist tried to explain that it was just a small misunderstanding, so he decided to invite his girlfriends to a restaurant that evening to apologize. Then the girl decided to laugh and suggested going to an incredibly expensive restaurant called Sea Sky World. The students laughed, realizing that lunch for one would be expensive and an ordinary student would not be able to afford it. The teacher made the remark because after class the students would have the opportunity to flirt. Lu Man did not listen and tried to reason with the beauty. He said the meeting would take place at Sea Sky World and advised me not to be late. The whole class was shocked that Lu Man agreed. The main character was lying in the park and was glad that he was sent to this school. He hoped that the beauties in his class could cure his post-traumatic stress disorder. A new day had dawned, and Lu Man was dozing peacefully at his desk. His neighbor was unhappy that he slept at school almost every day. Chin Chin called her friend and asked her to come over for a second. Xiao Shui thought that the new student had insulted the girl again, but that was not the case. The girl began to explain her problem, and the protagonist woke up from a conversation nearby. It turned out that Chin Chin had started her period and asked her friend for a pad, but her friend didn't have any, so she suggested asking others. Suddenly, someone placed a personal hygiene product in front of the girls. It was Lu Meng who decided to help Chin Chin in this way. The girls called him a pervert again because, firstly, he overheard them, and secondly, it was surprising that a grown man would do such things. The protagonist asked them not to shout because they could be seen and made sure the pad was clean. A teacher passing by noticed a strange conversation between students. They stood there in a daze, unable to understand how this could be explained. Seeing this, the teacher became embarrassed, blushed, and shouted at the whole class. All the students immediately noticed this company, so they began asking a lot of questions and making assumptions about what happened between Chin Chin and the new guy. The girl was very embarrassed and angry because of the increased attention paid to her. Lu Meng was kicked out of class and also had a pencil case thrown at him. The guy noticed that the girls had become a bit silly in character, and he doesn't understand how anyone can tolerate Chin Chin. Suddenly, our hero found himself on a building, hanging only by his fingers. The guy was unhappy with the fact that he served in a special forces unit, but he still managed to make a fool of himself. He hung on the roof and thought about how to defeat everyone without becoming a laughingstock for the entire school. Suddenly, Lu Man noticed something in the school windows. He saw the teacher having fun with a beautiful woman in the office. The main character of this couple was the head of the educational department and the director's wife, Jiao Yuan. This guy realized that treason was being committed before his eyes and took it as a sensation. He decided to keep a photograph of this event as a memento. Suddenly, the phone falls out of Lu Man's hands. Trying to catch him, our hero pressed himself against the office window where the piquant events were unfolding. The teacher was shocked by this development, and the woman screamed angrily throughout the school. The husband immediately ran out of his office. Lu Meng was already waiting for him there and immediately asked if everything was okay. The teacher was unhappy with the presence of this guy because he frightened him with his dangerous behavior. Eventually, the man said that everything was fine and asked the student to sit down. He noticed that our hero had recently arrived at school and remarked that climbing on the school building was prohibited and dangerous, after which Lu Man asked not to change the topic of conversation. The guy noticed that the teacher was very skilled at giving the woman a massage, so he confidently told the man about his experience. The man pretended not to understand what the student was talking about and advised him not to talk nonsense without evidence. He reiterated that climbing on the school building is prohibited, and therefore the young man should be punished and held accountable for slandering the teacher. Lu Man showed a video with incriminating evidence against this man, thereby proving that he was completely honest in his words. After seeing this, the teacher immediately suggested that we talk calmly and not go so far. The protagonist was glad of this change of mood and whispered his request in his ear. The events take us back to the classroom, where a happy Lu Meng was listening to music on headphones. Chin Chin was annoyed that he had returned calmly despite his recent humiliation in front of all the students. Meanwhile, he noticed that an incredibly beautiful woman entered the classroom, who, as it turned out, was a teacher. He grabbed something from the table and noted that it was time for class, so he would listen to her carefully. The attractive teacher began the lesson and asked the class a question. The first one who wanted to answer was Lu Meng. He answered the following question. Even when solving the next problem, he continued to give correct answers. All the students were shocked by the accuracy of their new classmates' answers. The teacher noted that this boy was probably the best student in his previous school. Lu Man said that he was very happy to be part of this class and never thought that the chemistry knowledge he learned last year would be useful to him, and Xiao Shui suspected that the new student was lying. Meanwhile, a group of young people were walking around the school grounds. One of the students was unhappy that his sleep was interrupted by noise from the street. Suddenly, he became scared and his classmates did not understand what was happening. It turned out that this guy saw Song Li and Song Xiao. A gang of 2 people and their accomplices entered the classroom. Some of them, upon meeting the main character, immediately asked where Lu Tao was. In addition, they burst inside, interrupting a chemistry lesson. The teacher ordered Song Li and Song Xiao to leave the class because there was no place for quarrels. They sarcastically remarked that the woman had become even more beautiful and made fun of her boyfriend. One of the brothers ordered his men to talk to teacher Lin and not let them call anyone. They actually took her phone, despite the woman's words. Lu Man asked his neighbor why these scumbags were bullying the teachers without anyone checking, and he explained that they were the sons of Vice Principal Song Jiaogua. Moreover, the director is constantly on the move, so the director is responsible for the school, and no one dares to touch his sons. The student heard that they were studying martial arts, so even the police couldn't handle them, and the elders didn't provoke the hooligans and gave them complete freedom of action. The protagonist showed great interest in the information he heard about the school principal's sons. The student also explained that Lu Tao was the only guy from the school who continued to resist. He pointed to a place by the window where a battered, stern man sat. Lu Mang saw that his entire face was drawn deep into the earth's crust and thought that this guy was cool. The brothers approached Lu Tao and asked him if he had forgotten who sent him to the hospital from which the boy had recently been discharged. The young man looked at them with a serious look and remained silent. The bullies reminded the student that he knew their rules, so he had to go up to the roof to avoid embarrassing himself in front of the whole class. Lu Mang understood that this was a chance to improve his reputation, but at the same time, he could not reveal his identity at school because he had to be an ordinary high school student. Suddenly an idea came to his mind. The protagonist remembered that in comics, students usually resort to tricks when they find themselves in danger, so he decided to trip up the robber. While he was thinking, someone blocked the light from the window. It seemed that one of the brothers noticed something amiss in Lu Mang's behavior. The strong guy was unhappy that they were trying to trip him up. He grabbed the main clothes and, foaming with rage, asked if he wanted to die. Unexpectedly, Xiao Shui and Qin Qin decided to save the newcomer and justify him in front of the bully. Upon seeing these beauties, the brothers were immediately delighted. They said they would deal with the students first, and then they could play with the girls. Naturally, the students did not like this attitude towards them. Meanwhile, the robber laughed at Lu Man hiding behind the woman's skirt. The main character boldly called him a girl, which greatly angered the school principal's son. In anger, the criminal began speaking in Tianjin dialect and ordered the young man to be taken to the roof. The gang members finally gave the teacher her phone. She immediately called school security. She reported a fight on the roof and asked someone to send her there. Lu Mang and Lu Tao bravely faced the danger that threatened them and were not at all afraid. The gang members menacingly asked their victims what their last words would be. Lu Tao apologized for dragging our hero into this conflict and promised to pay for future medical bills, but Lu Man assured that it was only his fault. The protagonist asked if there were any security cameras here, and his ally didn't understand why he was asking. Lu Mang did not answer and smiled mysteriously. Meanwhile, Teacher Lin and the security guards rushed to the roof to save the students. Gasping for breath, she asked the men to stop the fight as quickly as possible. To my surprise, all the robbers had already been neutralized and were lying exhausted on the floor. It looks like a Strong Song brothers were brutally beaten by someone. The teacher was surprised by the picture she saw and could not understand what had happened. Meanwhile, the main character and his partner went to a 24-hour store. Lu Tao bought Lu Mang a cola, for which he thanked the seller. The man explained that he did it out of the goodness of his heart to help fight the robbers. Lu Man explained that he didn't help just for the sake of it, but because he needed the help of his new acquaintance. He explained that he needed certain information. Since the main character had just transferred to a new school, he wanted to find out what the real situation was here. Lu Mang asked if this guy knew Fong Qing Qing and Qin Shui, and he replied that he had heard of Qing Qing as being too mature, but had not heard of Qin Shui. Lu Tao noticed that the protagonist blossomed one day after hearing this information. He noted that for some reason this guy was only interested in girls. Suddenly, an unfamiliar girl quickly walked past the main character. She didn't go any further and stopped behind Lu Mang. The guy suspected something and met unfamiliar glances. Suddenly the girl decided to kick the guy. The main character managed to grab her by the leg, which made the stranger embarrassed, and the guys did not understand what was happening. Lu Mang was surprised because he recognized this strike as a technique from the Maishan school. Meanwhile, the stranger quickly distanced himself from the guy's delight. He began to recite the school slogan, which he recognized from the girl's demeanor. Our hero asked what generation the stranger who took part in the battle belonged to. She replied that she belonged to the younger generation of the Maishan school and gave her name as Yun Kuai Feng. The guy came up and introduced himself as Lu Mang from the Wen generation of the Maishan school. The girl recognized our hero as her mentor, which surprised Lu Tao. The protagonist laughed and said that it was a small misunderstanding, and his friend tried to understand what the connection was between them. Lu Man forgot about his partner and went to have coffee with Yin Kuai Feng, but the girl noticed Lu Tao. As it turned out, she was our hero's niece and saw how he dealt with the robbers on the roof. The girl explained that Song Li and Song Xiu were her students, whom she had expelled from class yesterday for bullying other students. On the rooftop, she wanted to stop the hooligans when Lu Man and Lu Tao were surrounded. But it turned out that her uncle also uses the Maishan school's methods. She explained that she wanted to repeat Lu Man's methods on herself. The man did not like the antics of his niece, who tried to attack him. He noted that Yin Kuai Feng might receive punishment from the teacher if he found out about her antics. She held on tightly to Lu Mang and assured him that she had made a mistake and simply wanted to demonstrate the technique she had seen her uncle use. The protagonist felt embarrassed by such close contact with the girl. She asked not to tell the owner about her misdeed. Meanwhile, Lu Tao enjoyed dessert and coffee, oblivious to what was happening around him. Lu Man held back his nosebleed for a long time, but eventually the blood gushed out with such force that it fell into the boy's cup. Covering his nose with napkins, the protagonist asked Yin Kuai-feng why she also studied at this school. She explained that she actually works as a dormitory manager. The guys were surprised by such an unexpected choice of profession. They immediately imagined a beautiful girl sweetly warning them to check the room. Lu Meng was fascinated by the fact that such a beauty was in charge of his dormitory and was also his niece. Meanwhile, Yin Kuai-feng decided to leave herself and said goodbye to her uncle and his acquaintance. The events will then move to the large school stadium. Lu Tao decided that he would now spend time with the main character, and this made him happy. Lu Meng earnestly asked his new friend not to tell anyone about the incident on the rooftop because it would end badly for both of them. Suddenly, he saw something flying towards them at incredible speed. Lu Man reacted instantly and caught the ball masterfully. The protagonist thought with irritation that someone had attacked him again. He and his friend began to look around in all directions. Suddenly, he noticed that the ball was unusual and there were messages inside it. There was a note inviting him to meet at the same place at 6 in the evening, and the guy himself could not understand who it could be. Further events unfold in the park, where an unfamiliar girl was calmly strolling. Someone was walking behind her and watching her. It was a strange man who noticed something in the girl's purse. Returning to the main character, he can again be seen in the company of his friend Lu Tao. Lu Meng thought that in the morning he invited Fan Qingqing and Chen Shui to an expensive restaurant, and now someone wanted to meet him in the evening. Moreover, this guy realized that he had never met the sender of the note. He analyzed the speed of the layer's movement and came to the conclusion that it was definitely not the general who did it. The main character was not afraid of this mysterious man, so he waited for their meeting with a smile. Lu Tao decided to distract himself from his thoughts about his friend, who had been sitting in the heat for so long, and suggested that they go back. Lu Meng agreed, so he got up and left with that guy. Meanwhile, the strange stranger continued to stalk another stranger in the park. He approached the girl and tried to snatch her bag from her. At this moment, Lu Tao and Lu Man appeared behind the man, actively talking about something. The main character immediately noticed that something rather strange was happening. He reacted instantly and rushed to save the defenseless girl. The man approached the scene and prepared to catch the thief red-handed. Lu Meng deceived the thief so cleverly that he could not escape from him. He didn't understand why the man was running away, leaving half of his things behind. The guy accelerated too much, so he tried to slow down to avoid crashing into the stranger. As a result, our hero still ran into the girl and accidentally hugged her. She blushed from such unexpected contact with this guy. The stranger asked Lu Meng in confusion who he was and why he was holding her in his arms. He immediately tried to explain to the beauty that there had been a misunderstanding. The girl screamed, begging the guy to finally let her go, and he immediately jumped back. Having carefully examined the stranger, the main character noticed that she was incredibly beautiful. He began to explain, embarrassed, that the stranger wanted to steal something from the beauty's bag. Finally, Lu Man decided to politely introduce himself while his interlocutor checked her things. Suddenly, she took out a letter from her bag that looked like a declaration of love. At that very moment, our hero had a bad feeling, and the girl began to read a message for her. She immediately refused to have a relationship with this guy and demanded to take back his love letter, because it was definitely some kind of misunderstanding. Suddenly, someone called out to Lu Meng from behind. It was Xiao Shui and Qin Qin, and it turned out that the stranger was their sister. At this point, our hero had too many questions. Qin Qin immediately warned Shi Ruo that Lu Man was a pervert and a maniac, so he shouldn't be paid attention to, and invited the girl to drink milk tea. The sisters went to rest laughing, and the guy noticed that they were behaving like typical women. He turned around and suddenly met Xiao Shui's gaze, causing him to become frightened. The classmate looked at Lu Meng very carefully, making him feel uneasy. He thought that the girl had already fallen in love with him and was going to agree to a relationship with the beauty. She essentially ordered the protagonist not to touch their sister because he was unworthy of her. The guy wasn't going to give up and said that everything was still ahead, and Lu Tao silently watched his friend. Evening came and Lu Meng arrived at the appointed place in the stadium for the meeting. He immediately decided to look around and search for something interesting. The guy was upset that two of the most beautiful girls in school approached him, and he was not with them now. The protagonist believed that the stranger was making fun of him. After some time, Teacher Song appeared at the stadium and called Lu Man. Meanwhile, the guy had already climbed a huge pole, trying to climb higher. Lu Man didn't understand why the director was here, and he had some suspicions. The guy decided to fall quickly, and due to the friction force, all his limbs caught fire. While the teacher wasn't looking, our hero stole some tea from him, cooled himself with it, and then asked how he could help Mr. Sun. It turned out that the teacher wanted to pamper the student. Lu Man didn't understand this man's motives because he had recently personally bullied the director and beaten his sons. After some deliberation, the protagonist decided to refuse Mr. Song's offer. The husband stopped the student and explained that it was a simple dinner and, moreover, the house this guy wanted was already ready. The school principal noted that the boy needed to go to reception and pick up the keys. Lu Man thanked him for such responsibility and generosity. Having finished the conversation, the man decided to leave and told the other that he would wait for him tomorrow in the VIP building of the Underwater World Park. It seemed like the protagonist was pleased that he had managed to defeat Teacher Sun. Finally, he decided to go to the reception to get the keys and knocked on the right door. The girl told him that she was coming and asked to come here. Lu Man began to apologize for the disturbance and explain the reason for his visit, but the man who opened the door recognized him as his uncle. The main character panicked and was surprised by such an unexpected meeting. The embarrassed niece stood in front of her uncle wearing only a towel and didn't know what to say. She asked Lu Man with embarrassment, "Isn't it?" Leaning forward, the man tried to explain that Mr. Song had sent him here to get the keys. The girl immediately remembered the teacher's request and quickly went to look for the keys in the nightstand. Finally, she found them and picked them up. Suddenly, the niece accidentally dropped the keys on the floor. The girl leaned over after them, although it was dangerous to do so fully clothed. Finally, she stood up and asked her uncle for forgiveness for the delay. Unfortunately, Lu Man was already lying there with a nosebleed and foaming at the mouth for what he saw, seeing Yin Kwai Fong in a risque pose. Meanwhile, the next day arrived. The main character woke up at 6 in the morning and quickly got ready. He left the apartment, closed the door behind him, and went for a run. As it turned out, sports competitions were held in schools. The guy immediately greeted the beauties Chin Chin and Xiao Shui. He himself looked no less attractive in a t-shirt that showed off his toned body in all its glory. The main character confidently asked if the girls were tired of talking to him. Xiao Shui didn't understand why he approached them, and Chin Chin noticed that the game had already begun. The beauties set a condition. If Lu Man wins, he can return to class, so the guy was very motivated. He understood that he still needed to carefully hide his true strength. During the race, our hero was the first to cover the specified distance. In a long jump, he jumped the maximum distance. Lu Man tried his best to control himself, but during the high jumps, he constantly did incredible things, causing everyone around him to think that he could fly. As a result, the young man broke the city record and became the winner in all disciplines of the championship. Having seen such successes of the student, the commanders of various teams were already planning to take him into their ranks. The entire school congratulated the main character on his incredible victory. Meanwhile, someone was watching the celebration from the building's window. It was Master Song talking to someone about Lu Man. The school principal asked his staff member to deal with this guy because he was causing him a lot of problems. His assistant was a rather impressive man who assured the client that he would enjoy talking with him at his own pace. Evening had come, and it was time for the main character to meet Teacher Song in the Sea Sky World building. The man prepared elite cognac, KH.A, for dinner. Meanwhile, the restaurant employee had already let someone into Mr. Song's VIP room. It was our hero who thanked the worker at the entrance for the service rendered. The teacher was immediately delighted to see Lu Man and invited him to sit down, as he was most likely tired after the journey. Mr. Song said he respected the student as a person, so he offered him a drink, but our hero was still tense. The boy noticed that Director Song was very kind to him. Meanwhile, the man was impatiently waiting for the student to take the glass of alcohol from him. Lu Man still looked at Teacher Song with apprehension. At that moment, this creepy bandit was walking in the rain in the right place when he received a call. Mr. Song said that in 5 minutes the bandit should be on the second floor, in the Silver Month Pavilion. Having received the order, the man stood up and laughed evilly. He accidentally collided with people standing nearby. This bandit got angry and started threatening to kill passersby. As it turned out, it was the police who asked if the man was okay. In the VIP room, after Lu Man finished drinking the cognac, he lay unconscious. As he left the crime scene, Mr. Song sarcastically remarked that this guy would soon feel very good. The main character slept on the couch, and, thanks to having gotten enough sleep, said how delicious the alcohol was. At that moment, the thief turned off the lights in the entire restaurant. The guests were outraged because someone was afraid of the dark and strange events began to happen. The assassin easily entered the room where the unconscious Lu Man was. It suddenly turned out that it was another woman, not Mr. Song's thug. She swung at our hero, but ended up stabbing the sofa with a knife. The guy had already gotten to his feet and called the killer. He testified that he was standing by the window when lightning struck, illuminating the room. The protagonist seriously asked if the thief really wanted to fight him. The killer used thermal imaging with her glasses. In battle, she decided to use military poison daggers Z10. Seeing all of his opponent's equipment, Lu Meng realized that things were bad. She was the first to rush into attack on the main character with lightning speed. The guy began to dodge the enemy's quick strikes without any problems. Suddenly, the assassin almost reached Lu Meng's eyes with her dagger. Our hero timed the attack perfectly and, using his legs, knocked his opponent down. Both the boy and, unfortunately, the killer were able to land successfully using this technique. Before she could understand anything, Lu Man was already standing right in front of her. The girl's glasses adjusted the image parameters and were unable to determine the young man's combat capabilities. While the killer was considering her next steps, the main character managed to snatch the dagger from her hands. Lu Man decided to demonstrate how to use the weapon through his own experience. He gripped the dagger tightly, ready for further combat. The protagonist immediately struck the first blow to his opponent. The man asked if the killer had learned any lessons from his actions. Meanwhile, the moonlight illuminated the room, and Lu Meng noticed it. He saw that the killer was standing with her clothes completely cut off, revealing her delicate body. At this point, the thief realized that she had been given incorrect information and that the mission would therefore fail. The protagonist didn't expect his opponent to be a girl, so he mockingly said that he would send her a dress as an apology. The killer realized she needed to escape, so she took off running and jumped out of the window. Lu Man became curious about why this assassin was sent to him and wanted to find out all the details. The girl took one last good look at the window of the room she had just escaped from. Further events will take place at school the following day. In the director's office, Mr. Song scolded the bandit for his failed assassination of Lu Man. The man explained that the guy was just lucky and that he would definitely kill him next time, and also noted that he knew nothing about the other killer. The teacher breathed a sigh of relief when she learned that someone else had decided to do the dirty work for them, and now her grand plan could be put into action. At that moment, one of Mr. Song's sons entered the office. The teacher began to explain to the boy that if he took care of the only daughter of the CEO of East Ocean Group, whose name was Lee Si-rua, then the situation in East Ocean would change for the better. Mr. Song asked his son if he could fix it, but he was surprised because he was handsome and rich, and the girl still did not fall in love with him. Then the director decided to deal a crushing blow, that is, to seize him by force. The boy sarcastically remarked that his father was terrible, but he actually liked the idea. When he left the office, someone threw a rag in his face. The guy made a remark because he was now completely dirty. The man threatened to fire the cleaning lady if she didn't do her job. It suddenly turned out that the main character, who was spying on the Song family, was hiding behind the woman's mask. As evening approaches, events return to the Sea Sky World restaurant. The Song brothers came here together with Lee Si-rua. Lu Meng watched this company from afar. He tried to enter, but the security guard stopped him and said that entry was prohibited without a membership card in compliance with the dress code. Our hero turned around and left without saying a word. At this moment, someone called Lu Meng, and he picked up the phone. He turned to a woman nicknamed Mama for help. Brother Song tried to seduce the CEO's daughter. In order to successfully fulfill his father's assignment, he decided to give her a ring with precious stones. The girl didn't understand anything and asked seriously what it meant. The fan explained that she was asking him to become her girlfriend and promised to get all her fortune in the future. This sentence angered Lee Si-rua, and she threw the box at his head. The girl assured him that she had no intention of being with someone like him. And the other brother, Song, watched the scene from the sidelines and reflected on the terrible nature of women. The offended admirer, covered in wine, looked angrily at his future partner. Suddenly, the incredibly attractive Lu Man, dressed in expensive clothes, entered the establishment. In a luxurious interior, a pretty employee congratulated him. This guy didn't listen to her for a second and ran to save Lee Si-rua. The main character ran as fast and focused as possible. Meanwhile, Brother Song continued to drink horribly. Due to the amount of alcohol in his body, he began to feel nauseous. The boy tried to gather his strength and carry out his father's plan. He stood over Lee Si-rua, who was lying unconscious on the sofa. Another brother noted that time was running out, so the fan needed to gather his strength and carry out his plan. He noticed that his brother's behavior had changed, so he decided to leave the room. Before his brother could open the door, Lu Meng kicked it down. As a result, one of the solar panels was knocked down by the door. The enraged protagonist burst into the room and shouted Song Li's name. The drunk and bewildered boy was surprised by such a sudden intrusion. The protagonist noted that Song Li was a gentleman, so it would never have occurred to him to use brute force against a defenseless girl. Lu Meng began to tease the drunkard, calling him a pervert for such a disgusting trick. He challenged the robber to a duel with our hero if he considered himself a real man. Song Li became enraged at the insult to his father and immediately attacked Lu Meng. It seems the bully didn't have enough previous trauma from this guy. The protagonist delivered an incredibly powerful blow to Song Li's jaw. The force sent the robber flying to the side and hitting the floor hard. After the massacre, Lu Meng stood in the middle of the room with the unconscious Song brothers and the girl. He knew there was another person there, so he told him to get out. Someone held a knife to the protagonist's throat and ordered him not to move. It was Mr. Song's goon who was glad to finally meet this guy. The man noted that no one would survive when he was so close, so this time Lu Meng would not be able to hide. The protagonist, with an unperturbed expression, dealt the bandit such a blow that he became incredibly unpleasant. After receiving an injury to the damaged area, the bandit lay motionless on the floor. The main character did not understand where this amazing person knew him from. Meanwhile, the drunk Li Sijua woke up, called out to Lu Meng, and asked if he had come to save her. She felt awkward because she saw with her own eyes that the main character came for her. The guy blushed and said that beauties need to behave more quietly. Suddenly, the girl decided to hug her savior, which made him blush even more. Our hero realized that things were bad because Li Shiruo had already sobered up, but still continued to behave strangely. He hoped that his classmate had not done anything unnecessary. As a result, Lu Meng slapped her so that she would finally leave him alone. Because of this guy's actions, Li Shiruo was unconscious again. The events then progress until the morning in the hospital when the main character sits and peels an apple. News reports have indicated that crime rates have increased significantly in Haiden recently, which has had a negative impact on social stability and security. At this moment, Li Shiruo finally woke up and the guy greeted her. With a bandage on her face due to recent events, she asked Lu Meng why they were here. He gave her a peeled apple and asked if the girl remembered the events of the previous night. She didn't take the fruit, but she tried hard to remember the previous events. Li Sijua's dinner with Song Li and how he bragged to her. The girl asked the robber if he would stop if she drank the promised glass of wine. The guy happily promised that everything would be exactly like that. After this, Li Shiruo immediately mentions how someone is carrying her in their arms. Yes, it was Lu Meng who became the savior of Song Li's victim. The main character happily confirmed to the girl that it was him. He took a sharp bite of the apple and remarked that he knew what they wanted to do to Li Shiruo. Lu Meng charmingly declared that his goal was to save the defenseless girl. She thanked him emotionlessly and told the guy to leave because she didn't want to see him anymore. The main character was outraged by the way Li Sijua communicated with the savior, and, in turn, remembered their previous bad experience of communication when this guy supposedly saved her from a robbery. They started arguing because the girl didn't believe in Lu Meng's good intentions. At that moment, the doctor entered the room and asked them not to quarrel because the patient needed peace. The protagonist left in annoyance and finally noticed that Li Shiruo's brain really needed a rest. The doctor began asking the girl about her health, and she noted that her face still hurt. So, realizing his involvement, the guy decided to run away as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Li Shiruo watched carefully as her savior left and the door closed behind him. Our hero decided to go to the hostel. He was waiting for the elevator and thought that, according to the canon of the series, after such a rescue, the girl should have thrown herself into his arms. When the elevator finally arrived, the guy noticed that a woman's heart is so complex. A woman suddenly jumped out from there and crashed into our hero. Lu Meng immediately apologized to her. As it turned out, it was Lin's teacher, who was in a hurry to get somewhere. The protagonist was confused and asked where the woman was going. She explained that all the male teachers had left and Chang Shui and Fang Qingqing were in danger, so she asked the student to help her. In the end, the guy agreed, and together they went to help. On the way, Lu Meng decided to ask what happened to the girls. First, Teacher Lin asked the boy to sit on her motorcycle, and then she would explain everything. They were driving at high speed, and the man was sitting in the back, hugging the woman around the waist. She felt embarrassed because she noticed that the guy was hugging her too tightly. Lu Meng replied that he himself would not want to hug her like that, but the woman left very quickly. Suddenly, the teacher asked if the protagonist knew Chen Shui's past. It turned out that Chen Shui was a poor, abandoned child with a cleft lip since birth, which caused his classmates to bully him and call him Sister Rabbit. In high school, The girl managed to have surgery thanks to the support of public organizations and caring individuals, but the nickname and bullying did not go away. She was constantly anxious and felt inadequate. The teacher explained that when Chen Shui entered their school, only she, Fang Qingqing, and Li Siruo accepted the girl and became friends with her, but now the student went with her friend to a bar, and there they were harassed by some hooligans. Suddenly Lu Meng became serious and asked him to continue driving the motorcycle. The traffic light turned green, and the guy rushed at incredible speed to save the girl. They rode in such a way that everything and everyone around them flew in different directions. Finally, the teacher and student came to the right bar. In fact, some disgusting hooligans were harassing the girls and inviting them to have a drink with them. Chin Chin begged them to just let them go because she and her friend were drunk enough as it was. One of the admirers suggested that they drink another glass, and then the beauties would be free. The guys assured her that everything would be fine, so Chin Shui agreed to have a drink. Suddenly, the guy holding the glass in his hand splashed the entire drink in the girl's face. He threw her on the sofa, and Chin Chin landed on top of her. While the defenseless girls lay unconscious, the bully threatened them and said that it was too late to do anything now because Chen Shui had already called the teacher. A group of guys decided to harm the beauties, and they stood there laughing at their idea. Suddenly, someone called the main bully named Lu Mao Gue. The robber was unhappy that he was being distracted from his business with the girls. Meanwhile, the main character was already rushing across the entire bar to help the defenseless Chin Chin and Chin Shui. Lu Meng sped up and punched Lu Mao Gue straight in the head with all his might. From such a blow, the bully's gold tooth flew out, and the chain on his tie broke. Eventually, he lost consciousness and fell to the floor. The fans' friends were scared and asked our hero what kind of person he was. Meanwhile, Lu Meng looked at Chin Chin and Chen Shui and realized that they were quite problematic girls. At this moment, the hooligans decided to show themselves to the boss and take revenge on him. They looked at the number of beaten men the protagonist had left behind and thought about it. The robbers felt the room getting hotter. Lu Meng, overcome with anger, ordered them to leave with a furious expression. Seeing the guys rage, the hooligans immediately ran away, without even remembering their boss. The main character went outside and called the teacher who was waiting for him there. Seeing the young man, the woman was first surprised and then burst into tears. Lu Man picked up the rescued drunken girls and announced that the mission was accomplished. After all the events, the main character finally got used to student life. But in the city of Haidong, there are still many mysterious places that this guy has to explore. The events take us to a school lesson, when Lu Tao turns to his friend. He decided to inquire about the reason for Chen Shui and Fan Qingqing's absence. Lu Man explained that the girls had been very drunk yesterday, so they were probably still not recovered. Lu Tao didn't understand how the young man knew this, so he suspected that the protagonist was involved. Li Sijua called Lu Man and asked him to go for a walk with her. All the boys in the class were incredibly surprised by such a request addressed to a guy from such a beauty. The girl asked our hero why he froze. All the students in the class were happy for Lu Man because one of the most beautiful girls in the school came to see him. The guys started discussing that things weren't so simple with our hero, since even the daughter of the CEO of East Ocean Group came to see him. Lu Man liked the fact that his classmates didn't yet know the whole truth. He asked if the girl was already sad because of him, but she coldly ordered him not to talk nonsense and quickly leave the class. Li Shiruo took the boy to the park near the school. She suddenly threw some kind of package at our hero. As it turned out, it was a thick stack of bills. Lu Man did not understand what kind of gift this was from a girl. She explained that these were the funds he had spent during her treatment. The main character blushed and did not want to take the money. Li Sijua pointed out that she didn't need a penny of Lu Man's money and quickly said goodbye. At this time, the young man received an incoming call on his phone. It was and the guy asked her what happened. The girl replied that a black angel had appeared. She warned our hero that he must now be ready. Meanwhile, Lu Man thought a little about the name Black Angel. As a result, the guy became interested in him because he had completely forgotten about this nickname. Anna remembered the drug dealer Zhou Chuan, who was killed a year earlier. She explained that the man had taken her and 3 others into the desert, and after he was killed, they found that Zhou Chuan was bleeding, meaning he had been drinking it instead of water. The girl explained that their network had recently been hacked to obtain information about Lu Man himself, and that it was Zhou Chuan's brother, Zhou Zheng. This Zhou Zheng has a nickname, Black Angel. The Black Angel belongs to the international organization Blood Angel, which consists of people from Muslim countries and aims to destroy terrorists in the United States and Europe. The only member of the organization they were able to find out anything about was the Black Angel, but this did not happen due to his negligence. The organization did this intentionally because no one could catch this thief. and explained that Lu Meng had now become his target, so headquarters was hoping for his return to ensure his safety. The protagonist refused because it was a good opportunity to catch the Black Angel and find out the location of the organization. The girl noted that it would be too dangerous. Lu Meng was confident that the thief would not be able to escape this time. He decided to call and back after contacting head office. After the conversation ended, the guy became more serious after hearing the news. He remembered how 3 years ago he went to the Middle East to take part in an operation to arrest and destroy the Blood Angel organization, but something went wrong and the mission failed. Over time, the Blood Angel's activities suddenly ceased, and no one understood the reasons. The protagonist realized that the Black Angel wanted to play with him. Suddenly, Yin Kuai-fong appeared next to Lu Man and said hello, which greatly frightened the guy. The niece took the guy to another place. It seemed like Chun Shui wanted to thank her savior. Yin Kuai-fong didn't answer. She simply took our hero by the hand and told him to follow her. Finally, the girl brought Lu Man into the house. She said that this was the right place and suggested going up to the right floor. Lu Meng asked if Chun Shui rented a room here. Yin Kuai-fong confirmed this and explained that the rent here is cheaper than in the city center. The girl warned Chun Shui that they were already entering. The protagonist noted that the girl's room was clean and tidy. The owner of the apartment came out and hospitably congratulated her guests. The girl couldn't take her eyes off Lu Meng, so Yin Kuai-fong intervened in the conversation. Our hero noticed that Chun Shui's attitude towards him had changed dramatically, and now the young man felt a little awkward. He decided to look for the bathroom and finally found it. The young man really needed to go to the toilet and could no longer resist. Suddenly, the protagonist's gaze fell on something nearby. There was underwear hanging on the hanger that belonged to Chun Shui. At this moment, the girl asked her friend where Lu Man had gone. Yin Kuai-fong explained that the boy was not in the living room because he went to the toilet, and then the hostess realized what could happen. Our hero was minding his own business when a girl burst into the room. They met eyes and fell silent due to the discomfort caused by the situation. Chun Shui was confused and didn't know what to say. Finally, the girl couldn't take it anymore and screamed so loudly that the whole house heard it. The events take us to the north room of Dunhai University, where her boss was sitting, and then a mysterious killer appears. Meanwhile, in Chun Shui's apartment, the protagonist was wondering how soon the food would be ready, as the guests were dying of hunger. The hostess explained that there were 2 dishes left, so the man could wait in the living room. Lu Man smelled the delicious aroma of cooked food. Suddenly, he stopped the girl, and she watched him carefully. The main character turned on his charisma in order to finally beg for a piece of food. The girl explained that even with such an attractive face, the guy would not succeed until the food was ready. Lu Meng continued to persistently persuade Chun Shui to at least give her a chance. The hostess became very angry and ordered the guest not to make her scream. The protagonist assured that he was just curious and waved his hand so that Chun Shui lost her balance. As a result, the owner flew back with the food. Lu Man grabbed the girl by the waist and quickly collected all the food on the plate. In this position, they stood romantically among the curtains, gently fluttering in the wind. Chun Shui felt ashamed of being so close to the attractive guy. The guy again asked with a sweet look if he could try the dish. In the end, the hostess still didn't allow it. After some time, everyone finally sat down at the table, and everything was very tasty, so the friends ate with pleasure. Unintentionally, Yin Kuai-fong remembered the class's upcoming trip to Haitong University next week, where a presentation of some computer was to take place, and asked if the protagonist knew anything about it. This person specified that it would be a quantum computer. His niece immediately remembered that it was indeed him, and Chun Shui asked what it was. Lu Man explained that this is the most important research project of the state, since it can be said that the country that first masters this technology will become the world leader. Meanwhile, at the university itself, security personnel moved to the North Hall, where the violations were discovered. Quantum computers have 100 billion times more computing power than today's computers, making them a target for thieves. The secret assassin's ally was stealing a spare part and heard the guards approaching the room. When they entered, the thief, using his suit, disappeared into the corner of the room. He hid and then cleverly attacked the man from behind. All military or financial passwords mean nothing in front of this device, so the thief took such a risk. Anyone who gains control of a quantum computer will be wielding the weapon of the future. The events unfold at the moment when the main character leaves Chun Shui's house with his girls. In front of them, men were loading things for the move. Friends praised Chun Shui's culinary skills, and Yin Kuai-fong also said that the girl was becoming more beautiful every day, causing her to blush. The owner of the establishment herself decided to whisper her gratitude to Lu Man for his help at the bar. Apparently, the truck driver was following a group of friends and reported it by phone. Following the instructions from the manual, he concentrated and pressed the gas. At that moment, the girls were playing, and the main character answered his call and asked how she was doing. Lu Man stood quietly and listened to the girls' news. Meanwhile, the driver continued to press the gas pedal all the way down. Finally, our hero noticed a truck rushing towards them at high speed. Everyone was stunned and didn't know what to do. The girls froze with incredibly frightened expressions on their faces. Lu Mang realized that this was too dangerous, so something had to be done. He grabbed his friends by the waist and, pushing off from the truck, jumped high into the air. As a result of such maneuvers, various things began to fall out of the car. The main character and his friends began to fall rapidly. Below, he noticed a mattress that had fallen out of the truck, and to soften his fall, he fell onto it. While upset, Lu Mang was glad that everything went well and no one was hurt. In addition, the guy noticed that the girls were lying next to his bare chest, so this schedule suited him just fine. Chun Shui and Yun Kwai Fong thanked the protagonist for saving them, and he, remembering that he still had things to do, quickly disappeared. Lu Man came to some expensive establishment and headed to the VIP room. The guard said that Commander Lu had been waiting for this guy for a long time. Inside, Anna was waiting for the protagonist with a glass of wine. She was happy because she hadn't seen Lu Man for a long time. Meanwhile, the guy also took a sip and began to talk about an incident that happened before their meeting. Lu Mang noted that Zhou Zheng would hardly have used such tricks with a truck, and told the guy that his niece was also in their squad. As it turns out, Yin Kwai Fong is a member of the Condor Special Forces in Haidong and is responsible for supplying materials for these machines. The girl asked her uncle to take care of her. Previously, the protagonist thought that his niece was sent to spy on him, but instead started talking about the Black Angel. She reported that a thief had stolen a quantum computer chip, but it was a fake because the real component was at the school. Captain Lu warned Lu Man that he had a trip to Haidong University tomorrow, so when he found out that the chip was fake, Black Angel might do something there. Anna noted that tomorrow might be the best chance to finally catch the bandit. Realizing his role, the protagonist smiled and agreed with it. The events continue in Yun Kwai Feng's room, where the girl cannot find anything. She decided to look under the furniture on the floor. Thinking about his niece's interesting appearance, the boy began to tremble. In the end, the girl still couldn't find the thing she needed. Meanwhile, Lu Mang came up with a brilliant idea, to plug his nose with corks so that he would no longer bleed at the sight of a woman's body. Suddenly, Yin Kwai Fong approached the protagonist. It seemed she finally remembered where the thing she needed was. It turned out that the girl had carelessly hidden it between her breasts. Lu Man continued to hold on to prevent his nose from bleeding. Eventually, the liquid was able to penetrate the plug. In his thoughts, the guy was glad that he was able to prepare in advance. Meanwhile, Yin Kwai Fong pressed the button she found, and a secret door opened in the room. She explained that there was a weapon there and had given to the protagonist. The room was indeed completely filled with rifles, knives, machine guns, pistols, and other weapons. The niece suggested that Lu Mang inspect all the available equipment. They were the first to turn their attention to traditional weapons, namely the RPG, 7 bazooka, and the Heckler & Koch automatic rifle. Then the protagonist noticed the protective suit and noted that it was quite good. Then the guy noticed what at first glance seemed like ordinary glasses. Lu Mang decided to put them on, and Yin Kwai Fong was delighted to see the weapon at that moment. It turned out that this device allows you to see through clothing. Our hero's nose started bleeding again because of the girl's naked body. After such a reaction from his body, he decided to take off his glasses. Yin Kwai Fong asked her uncle what was happening to him. Lu Man's fear calmed him down for a second. Suddenly, blood started flowing not from his nose, but from his ears. The guy returned to his room and, sitting down at the computer, looked through the plan of Haidong University. Lu Mang realized that if Zhou Zheng simply wanted to kill him, he would hardly have stolen the chip, so the thief was definitely up to something. He noticed an unusual decoration on the killer's dagger and assumed that they belonged to some organization. In the end, the protagonist decided to catch the Black Angel with his own hands. In the morning, school children arrived at the university for an excursion. A serious-minded Lu Man also got off the bus. Teacher Lina called all the students to her, and they looked at the woman with admiration. She allowed the students to look around on their own, but then they were to gather at the administration building. Lu Tao invited Lu Mang to go for a walk together and remarked that there were many beautiful places in Haidong University. The protagonist refused and lied, saying that he apparently had a meeting with friends. My friend noticed a change in the guy's behavior because he didn't even look at girls. Finally, Lu Man headed to the university. He decided to examine the area with glasses. As a result, this guy made sure that everything was clean inside and out. The main character also did not find any traces of snipers at the fortified positions. Suddenly, a female voice came from behind, asking why Lu Mang was here. This guy didn't understand who could be on the roof at that moment. It turned out that it was a teacher from this educational institution. The woman asked the student's name and what school he was from. Our hero began to explain who he was and wanted to quickly take off his glasses so that nothing could be seen because of the teacher's clothes. Suddenly, Lu Mang noticed something unusual and was surprised. With a smile on his lips, he explained that he just wanted to admire the view from above, and the woman explained that it was dangerous here, so students should not be there. At this moment, the main character extended his hand to the teacher and asked her to wait. He wanted to remove the leaf that was tangled in her hair. The woman immediately blushed from the closeness with the man and thanked him for his help. Suddenly, the main character grabbed the stranger by the cheek. Meanwhile, students from Haitong University performed songs for the students. The school children liked the girls' performance, so they rejoiced and danced. Chin Chin and Chun Shui found student life to be incredible. Suddenly, Chin Chin became serious, noticing something strange. The girl noticed that for some reason Lu Man did not come at the appointed time. Xiao Shui thought that her friend was already upset because of this guy. Chin Chin was ashamed and began to justify herself. Xiao Shui, with a loving look, said that the stupid Lu Mang was so reliable. At that moment, her friend noticed the expression on the girl's face as she said those words. Chin Chin asked if her friend noticed that the main character was looking at them all the time. She didn't answer, but only thought about why Lu Mang didn't show up for the meeting. At this moment, the main character was on the roof with the teacher. He tore something off the woman and threw it on the floor. It turned out that the Black Angel was hiding under the teacher's suit. He asked the guy how he could see him, and he explained that he just had slightly better eyesight. Zhojin couldn't believe that the protagonist had X-10 military glasses. Lu Man laughed and decided to look through his glasses again. Underneath his clothes, he saw a very funny expression on the Black Angel's face. This equipment made our hero laugh very hard. The guy burst out laughing, and the thief silently watched what was happening. Suddenly, two balls flew past the main character and crashed into the wall. Zhou Zheng finally decided to use his hidden weapon. He mockingly asked if Lu Mang still had his sense of humor. The guy explained that his smile was a sign of self-confidence, so he invited Black Angel to take part in the shoot again. The main character suggested that the thief do without a fight. The Black Angel did not answer with a word. At this time, Li Shi Ruo was standing under the toilet and waiting for her turn. Other students were animatedly discussing the performance and the subsequent science and technology exhibition. The girl couldn't stand it any longer, so she decided to look for a toilet on the 4th floor. She overheard a conversation between two students who also wanted to go there, but for some reason one of them didn't want to. Li Shizhua heard a legend that in her 2nd year, a girl committed suicide in the bathroom on the 4th floor, and after that, many strange things happened in the room. As a result, she decided to wait her turn. Meanwhile, a shootout began on the roof. Lu Man skillfully dodged the numerous bullets flying at him. After some time, he was able to notice the right moment to approach his opponent. The chief swung his hand to strike the Black Angel. Surprisingly, the thief managed to dodge such an obvious blow. Lu Mang was very surprised that his opponent had succeeded. With a somersault, Black Angel was able to dodge the guy. He jumped very high and found himself on the other edge of the roof. The thief sarcastically remarked that Lu Mang deserved his title as a soldier because his actions were easy to predict. In response, he said that the Black Angel also fought well, but still worse than him. The Black Angel suggested playing inside the building, and our hero agreed. Meanwhile, Li Shi Ruo still decided to go up to the 4th floor and go to the toilet. Because of the legend she had heard, this place seemed very gloomy to the girl. Besides, she couldn't find a toilet because the floor was too dark. Eventually, she managed to find a suitable room. Li Shi Ruo finally felt relieved. She tried to convince herself that these were just rumors and that there was no need to think about the girl's spirit. Suddenly, the girl heard popping sounds in the toilet. She couldn't believe that the legend she had heard had actually become reality. The frightened student took a deep breath and exhaled to calm herself. When she entered, it seemed to her that there was no one else there, but then she heard strange sounds. Something flew over Li Si Rua's head, so she tried to calm down as if there was nothing else in the toilet. Then the girl became even more frightened when she heard a human voice. It seemed to her that the sound was coming from right outside the door of her cubicle. Suddenly, a frightening shock of black hair appeared above the door. Li Shi Ruo thought that the spirit of the deceased student really appeared in front of her. She decided to turn on the flashlight on her phone to make it less scary. The girl began to explain to the spirit that she was a high school student and asked the deceased student not to harm her. When drops of water, running down from wet hair, began to drip down the surface of the door, sparkling in the dim light of the room. From under the wet pile of hair, Lu Meng did not look particularly pleased. Seeing such a face in the darkness, Li Shirua screamed furiously. The guy recognized the girl and finally removed his strange hair. One of the friends scolded the main character and asked how he got into the women's restroom. Lu Man decided to wash himself and explained that Li Shirua would not understand anything anyway. The girl opened the door with her feet because she was angry at our hero's impudence. Our hero immediately left without listening to his friend, which made her even more angry. However, at the exit, he stopped and looked at Li Shirua. The guy decided to show his charisma again and told the girl that he would explain everything to her a little later. The puzzled friend didn't understand what this strange guy was doing. A moment later, Lu Meng had already jumped out and chased after the Black Angel. The protagonist's thoughts began to wander. He pondered the possible location of his enemy. Zhozheng turned around and smiled for some unknown reason. The guy was puzzled by why the Black Angel stopped so suddenly. The next moment, the protagonist seemed to understand the thief's intentions and strategy. They stayed in the company of a cheerful group of Lu Man's friends. The Black Angel offered to resolve all disputes in this place. This guy ridiculed Zhou Zheng, saying that he was afraid of losing, which is why he resorted to such mean tricks. While Lu Man was losing his guard, the thief took advantage of the moment and hit the guy in the stomach with all his might. The poor protagonist's mouth started bleeding from such a strong blow. The events then move on to Anne, who at this moment is calmly driving her car. She was informed that Lu Meng had not yet given any signals. Hearing this, Captain Lu calmly continued on his way and left. Suddenly, an emergency message comes in, declaring a code red, as the target has been hit. The assistant uses an earpiece to ask what is going on, and slams her foot on the pedals and turns the car around. Such a sharp turn caused sparks to fly from under the car's wheels. Finally, Anne explained that Lu Man was in danger, so she was going to enter university. All cars on the road accelerate to this speed and maneuver in different directions. Xiao Shui was nervous about Lu Meng's absence for so long, but Xin Xin assured her that he was just up to something and would definitely not die. Meanwhile, not far from the girls, Lu Man continued to fight with the Black Angel. The thief expected that the Special Forces soldier would remain standing even after such an attack. The guy laughed it off, saying that because of the women's clothing, the Black Angel hits like a girl, and it doesn't hurt but even feels good. Suddenly, some abnormalities began to occur with Zhou Zheng's body. Lu Meng was surprised and couldn't understand what the hell was going on with his opponent. The skin that the Black Angel was disguised on began to smoke and hiss. The protagonist decided to make a swift dash towards his opponent. Despite the initial blow being so strong, he decided that the pain was such that he needed to step over it and attack the thief. This guy punched Black Angel right in the face. Lu Meng believed that he had succeeded and the attack was successful. As a result, the opponent was still able to stop the blow with his own hand. The Black Angel stood as if he didn't even feel any tension, resisting the power of our hero. Eventually, the woman's muscles and veins began to bulge from beneath his disguise. It seems the era of disguise has come to an end, and Zhou Zheng has returned to his male form. Eventually, the protagonist managed to break free from the enemy's grip and punch him in the face. Lu Meng had long tolerated the thief disguising herself as a woman, so now he decided to fight for real. Finally, a stocky man appeared in front of the guy and said that he didn't even understand what he had gotten himself into. Now, the Black Angel can unleash its full power on Lu Meng. While the students were celebrating carefree, a serious fight was brewing nearby. This battle put the Special Forces King in serious danger. The Black Angel possessed enormous strength, which puzzled the experienced Lu Meng. Despite the accuracy and speed of the protagonist's strikes, his opponent easily dodged them. The thief mocked the boy, saying that he was too slow. At some point, he rushed behind our hero. The Black Angel looked at the speed with which the young man attacked with confusion. Lu Man realized that he might receive another unpleasant blow. As a result, the thief was able to easily hit the guy in the stomach. He stood with a smile on his lips, realizing that the Special Forces soldier was running out of strength. The protagonist was thrown far away from the blow, but the Black Angel had no intention of stopping his attack. The next blow hit the poor guy right in the face, and he was completely unable to block the attacks. The Black Angel continued to mercilessly maim the protagonist. Finally, the final attack sent Lu Meng flying into a tree, causing the birds to take flight. Meanwhile, Xiao Shui and Qin Qin noticed that something strange was happening in the direction of the fight scene. The thief thirsted for complete revenge for his brother's death. He unceremoniously stepped on the boy's face. The Black Angel hit Lu Meng on the head, but he had already lost consciousness. Zhou Zheng was pleased with his work and mocked the broken commando. Suddenly, someone approached the Black Angel from behind and ordered him not to move. The thief was unhappy that his business was interrupted. It was Anna who immediately ordered Lu Meng to remove his feet from his head and lie down on the ground. Otherwise, the Black Angel would be left without a head. Zhou Zheng didn't want to kill this guy, but wanted to torture him again and again because that would be much more interesting. He decided to back down and promised that next time it would be more fun. The thief put his hands behind his head and pretended to be faking. In fact, he was holding some kind of cube-shaped device in his hands and pressed a button. There was an immediate explosion and a lot of smoke appeared. When the dust settled, Anna saw that there was no one in front of her. Finally, Commander Lu rushed towards the beaten Lu Meng. She took him by the shoulder and promised to take the victim to the hospital. Upon reflection, Lu Meng admitted that he had underestimated his enemy and had not realized what kind of person this Black Angel was. The events moved to the hospital where the main character was resting. Anna listened anxiously to the sounds of the devices connected to this guy. She never left the protagonist's bed. The captain hoped that Lu Meng would finally recover from such serious injuries. The main character was in the intensive care unit, and the doctor explained to and that the patient was in critical condition. The man's recovery is estimated to take approximately 6 months due to multiple fractures and ruptured internal organs. But there was also a scenario in which Lu Meng would not be able to recover. Under unfavorable circumstances, he might have spent his entire life in a wheelchair and would have simply burst into tears. Meanwhile, Lin's teacher informed the class about their classmate's absence. She described his severe injuries and asked students to be careful. The boys in the class discussed the causes of such injuries and put forward theories about falling from a tree in a fight. Meanwhile, Lu Tao wanted to ask his friend about his adventures himself. One of his friends noticed that Lu Man had been hiding a lot from him lately. Further events unfold in the Black Angel's residence, located in the middle of the forest. At this time, the thief was calmly relaxing and drinking alcohol. He praised Dr. Li's work, noting his high level of skill. The assistant reminded Black Angel that an overdose could cause changes in chromosomal cells. Why didn't Zhou Zheng finish his sentence when he looked at his assistant? He was dressed very strangely and asked why the owner was looking at him like that. The Black Angel asked what the clothing on Bird Dick meant. He explained that he was afraid of chromosomal problems in the future, so he decided to adapt and follow the teacher's instructions. Bird Dick decided to ask Black Angel why he was trying so hard to kill some insignificant Lu Meng. The thief explained that this guy was more than just prey for him. He stared at the tablet, conducting a full analysis of the protagonist. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Lu Man slept restlessly and dreamed of the horrors of war. Then the guy imagined and tied to a chair with explosives. A crazy thief dressed as a clown did this to her. A short man called out to our hero, asking him to come closer. Lu Man promised that Jack would not be able to leave here. Meanwhile, a doctor wearing a suspicious disguise entered the hospital. The receptionist didn't understand who she was and looked at her questioningly. Finally, the woman asked where Lu Man's patient's room was. The girl looked at the doctor's badge and saw that it was the director, so she immediately explained where the main character was. The mysterious woman thanked the administrator for his help. At this moment, Lu Meng continued to fight Jack in his sleep. The thief pressed a button that was supposed to blow up the tied-up and thus wanted to congratulate her on her birthday. The clown laughed sarcastically, but nothing happened after pressing the button. Jack pressed again and finally laughed sadly. Lu Man explained that he had defused the explosives in advance. Obviously, the clown is unhappy with this development. Suddenly, he smiled again with all 32 teeth and started laughing. Jack removed the cover from his device, revealing the actual button. The protagonist immediately realized the horror of the situation. He let out an incredible scream and tried to reach Anna. Eventually, there was a powerful explosion and the entire building was thrown into the air. Lu Man tried to shield himself from the debris with his hand, but noticed that nothing else had happened. The guy opened his eyes and saw a church in front of him. He stood in front of the entrance to the building and did not understand what was happening. Meanwhile, in real life, a suspicious director was approaching the ward. She opened the door without any problem and entered the room. A doctor disguised as a Black Angel approached Lu Meng. In addition, it turned out that the thief was disguised as a hitman and could not forget what the protagonist did that day. Zhou Zheng was confident that this time his worst enemy would definitely not be able to escape. Meanwhile, in his dream, Lu Meng entered a spacious church. Bright sunlight fell from the ceiling onto the surprised guy. He was alone in the hall because a gray-haired man in a top hat was sitting on a bench. The stranger was delighted to see our hero and turned to him. He stood up and explained that he had been waiting for Lu Man for quite a long time. The man was surprised that they were waiting for him there and asked the man who he was. The stranger was upset that Lu Man did not remember him and decided to explain everything himself. He introduced himself as the part of the protagonist that he had awakened. He didn't understand what he was talking about, so he asked his stranger to tell him everything directly. Finally, the stranger decided to reveal all his cards and explained that he was our hero's subconscious. Lu Mang was quite surprised to hear this from stranger. Meanwhile, at the reception, the hospital administrator was looking through funny posts on social media. She laughed quietly when Anna approached her. Commander Liu asked if Chief Chun was in Lu Man's room. The nurse explained that another manager named Li had come to see the guy. Hearing this name, and suddenly had an idea. She ordered the girl to immediately call security to the ward and ran to save the main character. The commander immediately realized that she had made a mistake and had been too careless. At this time, Lu Mang was still standing under the crucifixion of Christ together with a strange man from his dream. He asked his subconscious what she wanted to tell him. The man told the boy that his physical abilities were still weak, but he had incredible potential. He explained that after the injury, energy would be released. Lu Mang didn't understand what would happen next, and wondered if his subconscious could give him these abilities. The man in the hat explained that the protagonist must do it himself. Suddenly, he struck with his cane, after which lightning flashed and a crack appeared on the floor. Our hero couldn't keep his balance and fell into the abyss. The boy got scared because he suddenly couldn't feel the ground under his feet. He failed and flew for a long time in the dark, disoriented. Eventually, Lu Mang fell and found himself in the middle of a strange room that seemed to be created using computer graphics. The man in the hat calmly followed the boy down and apologized for scaring him. He explained that in addition to the physical trauma, he would also have to undergo a psychological test. Taking off his hat, he decided to begin this process. At first, the main character looked at his so-called subconscious with apprehension. After some time, surprise appeared on the guy's face. The man changed his appearance, and a black angel appeared in front of him. Meanwhile, the thief himself continued to stand at the bedside of Lu Man, who was unconscious. He took out a syringe with the most poisonous cyanide to ensure that he would kill his enemy this time. The main character lay quietly. There was no emotion on his face. Suddenly, Black Angel's hands began to tremble. He didn't understand why they doubted his soul, because now he had the opportunity to kill life's greatest enemy. At that moment, and ran through the corridors of the clinic to Lu Mang's room. She hoped that the young man would wait for her and that nothing would happen to him. In the dream, the main character continued to look aggressively at the enemy. The subconscious mind mockingly reminded him that this was the first time this guy had lost to anyone. She began to wonder if Lu Mang really wanted to become a loser and admit defeat. The image of the Black Angel began to laugh at the fact that the boy bit his tongue out of fear and did not know what to say. Suddenly, our hero jumps up and spanks the mocker. The blow was so strong that the man was thrown against the wall, and dust rose up around him. He noted that the blow was quite strong. Lu Man noted with a smile that he had never been afraid of anything, and last time he had simply relaxed a little. This time he decided to deal with the Black Angel. At that moment, Anna burst into the room. She saw that there was no one in the room except Lu Mang. The commander realized that it was a false alarm, and she had simply deceived herself. Zhou Zheng, disguised as himself, escaped through the window and watched Anne. He noticed something that interested him and smiled. Anna gently stroked our hero's cheek. She was even willing to resign to take care of Lu Mang if he did not recover. Suddenly, a warning appeared on the screens that the patient's blood pressure was rapidly dropping due to cyanide poisoning, and was shocked by this message because the man was on the verge of death. The captain immediately reported the poisoning to the head of the department and asked him to come to the ward as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the protagonist continued his imaginary battle with the Black Angel. The thief easily dodged Lu Mang's precise and swift strikes. Just like with the real Zhou Zheng, his subconscious mocked this guy's slow attacks. Suddenly, the thief's fist burst into blue flame. He sped up to deliver the killing blow, uttering words about Lu Man's insignificance. The protagonist did not lose his composure and quickly repelled the Black Angel's attack. The thief was confused because he was confident in his abilities. The Special Forces soldier stood confidently, blocking the enemy's powerful blow. He was obviously full of rage towards his main enemy. Lu Mang suddenly accelerated and hit Black Angel right on the head. He did not stop and attack the thief again. The husband was surprised by the main character's dexterity and strength. The guy's face expressed rage and a complete lack of pity. Lu Mang mercilessly dealt Black Angel many blows. The main character was so furious that he couldn't stop. After some time, the thief gathered his strength and raised his hands. The guy reacted immediately because he felt that something was wrong. The black angel hit the protagonist hard in the face. Lu Meng was stunned by such an unexpected trick from his opponent. The enemy praised the guy for his ingenuity. He liked that our hero was becoming much stronger and more agile. The black angel screamed madly and began to use his powers to their full potential. He began to strike with incredible speed, but Lu Meng easily dodged them. It seems that everything was so simple that our hero got bored. In the end, the guy managed to quickly grab the black angel's arm and stop his attack. Lu Meng asked with fury in his eyes how his opponent dared to commit atrocities in his world. He hit the enemy in the stomach with all his might, causing him severe pain. The thief flew to the other end of the room and fell head first. The protagonist eventually decided to put an end to his torment because he could no longer sleep. Suddenly, Lu Meng noticed that a strange substance had appeared under his feet. The pink substance continued to quickly fill the entire room. It seems our hero realized that it was cyanide. The toxic solution began to leak out of all the walls and ceiling of the room. The black angel realized that someone had helped him. Meanwhile, and sat next to Lu Meng and cried. When the head nurse finally entered the room, she started begging them to save the guy. A message about cyanide poisoning appeared on the computer. The doctor ordered his assistant to warn everyone about the need to prepare for resuscitation. Cyanide penetrated deeper and deeper into the protagonist's dream. There was already so much poisonous water that it began to drip onto Lu Meng's body. As a result, the man lost feeling in his shoulder. More and more drops fell on him, so that his whole body became paralyzed. The black angel watched this from afar and mocked. He didn't feel anything, but he realized that this liquid was having a bad effect on his opponent. The thief decided to stand under the stream of cyanide and see what would happen. As a result, the pink substance completely covered the black angel's body. Lu Meng didn't understand why this man did this. Meanwhile, the protagonist's vital signs dropped to 20%. The manager gave the order to bring injections for Izaya's body, and cried and looked at poor Lu Meng with hope. At this point in the dream, the boy's subconscious turned into a stocky pink monster. He mocked, saying that this world was only in the protagonist's head, but he still remained so weak. Lu Meng was annoyed that he could not move fully. The giant monster decided to take advantage of the moment and accelerated for a final attack. Finally, he decided to say goodbye to his victim. There was a loud explosion and a sphere formed around the main character. At this moment, in real life, Lu Meng's pulse disappeared. The defibrillator used to save him fell to the floor. The manager apologized too, and, saying they did everything they could. The girl became hysterical and called Lu Meng. The sphere that formed around the boy threw the cyanide monster a great distance away. The thief believed that such a development of events was impossible. The protagonist gathered all his strength because he could not stay here, because outside there were people waiting for him who needed help and protection. He suggested that they ultimately decide who would emerge victorious from this situation. The rivals rose to their feet to face off in the final battle, and sat by the bed and continued calling Lu Meng. She will not forgive his death. Suddenly the protagonist's hand rose. He placed it on Anna's head to calm the girl. The boy happily asked why the captain hated him so much. The events move forward several days to the doctor's office, where our hero is preparing for a procedure. Doctors conducted a routine examination of the patient. Suddenly, the manager saw something incredible in Lu Meng's performance. It turned out that suddenly 70% of the disease was cured and many fractures healed. Moreover, all traces of poisoning simply disappeared. The doctor believed that such changes were simply impossible. Lu Meng got up from the phone and asked what manager was talking about. The girl pretended that there was nothing important in this conversation and said that the guy would be discharged tomorrow. The protagonist apologized for making her worry and smiled carefreely. This smile seemed to touch Anna's heart. The manager turned to her and said that Lu Meng's general data was already ready. 5 minutes had passed since the man had left and was still standing there, ignoring the doctor. Ultimately, the doctor showed that the protagonist not only recovered, but also significantly improved his physical fitness. It was definitely something out of reach for the average person. The manager asked the captain if he should report this to the organization, and replied that there was no need for that, because she would figure everything out herself. Lu Meng sat in the ward, and his stomach indicated that it was time to eat. The man noticed that he was very hungry and asked when they would finally give him food in this hospital. Suddenly someone entered his room and called the protagonist. In the end, it was his classmate Xiao Shui who was able to find this guy's room. The girl brought Lu Meng some very tasty food. The protagonist happily asked if this had really been prepared for him. He started eating and sincerely thanked Xiao Shui for the delicious food. Suddenly another man entered the room and told the guy to wait. It was Chin Chin, who had also been looking for her friends for a long time. She was offended that her friend came first because they had agreed to come together. Chin Chin didn't let the main character eat again, and Xiao Shui scolded her for not washing her hands. Finally, Chin Chin sweetly suggested that the guy try her food first. Opening the box revealed an unattractive dish. An awkward silence fell in the room. The food also smelled bad, but the girl still forced Lu Man to eat it. At that moment, several more people entered the room. Teacher Lin and Lu Tao also came to see the student. They witnessed a quarrel between Chin Chin and a guy over a dish the girl had cooked poorly. The events moved to the luxurious residence of the Black Angel. One of his assistants is standing at the door. Finally, after a long wait, the girl decided to enter the room. As a result, she saw her master dressed in women's clothing. The Black Angel was angry because the assistant did not knock on the door. She left, and after a while, knocking again, she entered. There, the owner, dressed in an expensive suit, was waiting for her and asked the purpose of the girl's visit. The assistant knelt before her master. She reported that everything was ready to carry out any operation. The Black Angel was surprised that everything happened so quickly and praised Ling Ling for her responsibility. The girl was satisfied and asked when the plan would be implemented. The thief ordered her to prepare for classes at Haidong University. Meanwhile, friend Xiao Shui and Chin Chin were walking on the street. Chin Chin wanted to ask her friend something, so she asked what they were talking about. The girl directly asked Xiao Shui if Lu Man liked her. Xiao Shui choked on her coffee and started coughing. She asked why Chin Chin decided to find out about this so suddenly. The friend explained that she seemed to be starting to develop feelings for this guy. Suddenly, completely unexpectedly, the main character appeared among the girls. Lu Man hinted that beauties were drinking coffee here, and he also felt thirsty. Teachers Lin and Lu Tao laughed at the fact that the guy had just been discharged from the hospital and was already pestering girls. The main character jokingly complained that girls were talking about him behind his back. The teacher smiled and suggested not to quarrel today. She also took a camera with her and suggested that everyone take a photo together. The group asked the passing guy to take a photo of them, and he told them they shouldn't touch the redhead because they could still get infected. The protagonist was irritated by the stranger's remark because he naturally had such hair. Teacher Lin casually reminded the students that midterms would begin next week. The uncle asked the group to remain still so that he could finally take a photo. The result was a photograph in which all the girls stood straight, and the guys were embarrassed upon hearing the news. Meanwhile, the principal finally returned to school, and Mr. Song was reporting to him about the schedule of events for school renovation day. The old man assured the school principal that this event was very important, so everything had to be perfect. Mr. Song assured the director that nothing unexpected would happen. On the table lay a plan for the expansion of the school under the leadership of Li Shizhua. The director asked if the girl would really be in charge of everything, and the head of the department explained that this time the construction was being financed by the head of the East Ocean Group. Mr. Song noted that the sponsor's daughter should be placed in a prominent position, and then he will be able to allocate a lot of money for her happiness. The director praised his interlocutor's ingenuity, but asked him not to make mistakes. With an unkind smile, the director promised to do everything perfectly. Then the events will move to the street cafeteria. Our hero could not eat his fill and continued to enjoy the delicious food. Someone hit him on the hand with chopsticks, and he dropped a piece of meat. Chin Chin made a remark that eating with your hands was unhygienic, but the guy objected that he was very hungry. The guy thought his girlfriend was worried about him, but in reality, she just didn't want the dishes to get dirty. Lu Tao tried to calm his friend down and offered him a drink. Teacher Lin raised a toast to Lu Mang's health and his successful passing of the midterm exams. The whole company cheerfully clinked glasses. There was also someone else drinking beer in the canteen. The husband put the bottle on the table and began eavesdropping on loud conversations between friends. It turned out that it was a whole gang of robbers. Their leader was unhappy that the children were making too much noise. Lu Tao was just replenishing his food supplies and distributing them to his friend when the hooligans approached him from behind. This guy offered to raise a glass to Teacher Lin. Suddenly, someone grabbed Lu Tao's shoulder tightly. He turned around and saw a stocky robber standing in front of him. The guy asked what this amazing stranger was doing. The bully didn't answer and looked at Lu Tao for a few seconds. The next second, his huge hand grabbed his face. In a fit of anger, he pushed Lu Tao, causing the table with food to overturn. The girls were surprised by such tactless behavior of the stranger. The bully continued to look at them without any emotion. According to his friends, he was proud of such a cool act. Other patrons in the cafeteria talked about bandits, that they belonged to the mafia, and that even the police were afraid to do anything about them. But the main character was not afraid of anything, so he turned to the robber. Lu Man asked why the stranger hit his classmate like that. The bully's friends jumped up because they considered it inappropriate to speak to their leader in such a way. The mafioso explained that Lu Tao looked like he definitely needed a good beating. Suddenly, with a slight movement of Lu Man's hand, the bandit flew incredibly far away. The events are transferred to the head's office, where he transfers the earned money. The man congratulated the Song brothers on receiving the title of family head. He let the boys go, but they looked pretty upset. But they still didn't understand what to do with their new situation. The director sent the brothers home to rest because all the hard work will be done for them. The guys suspected something, not thinking that this position could be obtained so easily and for money. At that moment, the head of the institution received an incoming call on his phone. In the end, he asked the Song brothers to stay. The man explained that now they needed to figure out in what case the robbers could get away with their crime. Back in the dining room, Lu Man enjoys his meal while the bandits watch him closely. Our hero noted that the owner of the establishment prepares very tasty food. The leader of the hooligans noticed that this guy was quite impudent. Lu Man invited the hooligans to try the kebab too, because they were sitting too sternly while waiting. One of them was genuinely happy with this offer, because he was very hungry. This guy invited the leader of their group to try the food too. The same, completely beaten hero looked at his friend with displeasure. The friend understood everything and immediately refused Lu Mang's treat. The other robber didn't understand what was going on and decided to take his friend's kebab if he didn't like it. As a result, the head attacked that guy, and the other one stood and enjoyed his food. At that moment, a group of new moons entered the outdoor cafeteria. It was the Song brothers, fully prepared for battle, and the guests were eagerly awaiting the start of the battle. The serfs demanded that the people disperse before them. They were outraged that someone dared to insult them. The brothers' epic performance was ruined by a driver who shouted at the boys for money for the ride. The leader of the bandits immediately recognized them as the leaders who had passed the 3 tests. He pointed out that the red-haired boy dared to go against them. The bully asked the Song brothers to teach Lu Mang a good lesson. The robbers ordered the protagonist to beg for mercy. Meanwhile, the guy continued to enjoy the kebabs and was not afraid for a second. He was only surprised when he saw that Song Li and Song Xiao had joined the mafia and even become its leaders. Lu Man mockingly recalled that the boys had talked about pardoning him. The Song brothers immediately threw down their weapons and fell to their knees to beg him to forgive them. The bandit watched in horror as the leaders feared an ordinary student. Meanwhile, they bought a lot of kebabs and gave them all to Lu Mang. The friends immediately decided to leave the bandit for fictitious reasons. The protagonist noticed that the bully seemed to have been poorly trained in the ways of the mafia, so he decided to train him instead of his father. The bandit immediately became frightened and begged Lu Man not to tell his father about this. The guy called Song Xiao because he had already eaten his fill of kebabs. He asked the robber to go to the store and buy 3 red ties. Lu Man began to explain that the red tie was part of their national flag, painted with the blood of revolutionaries. This guy thought the bullies would understand his intentions. The protagonist knitted red scarves for them and explained that this was today's lesson for the hooligans for their dishonor. Now Lu Mang wanted to make sure that the boys would always have a draw. He finally left a hand over the bag of food to Lu Tao. Meanwhile, the cafeteria's patrons did not appreciate this performance and noted that there was nothing special about this gang. Song Xiao told his brother that Lu Mang had already completely seized their power and something had to be done about it. Song Li was incredibly angry at being in such an awkward position in front of a large crowd. He couldn't stand it any longer and took a stationary knife out of his pocket to stab his main enemy. The protagonist instantly reacted to the threat coming from behind. Suddenly, someone's foot sped up and hit the robber in the face. The other bullies were shocked by this turn of events because it was a girl. It turned out that Lu Mang's niece decided to help her uncle and put Song Li in his place. She greeted the main character warmly and congratulated him on his discharge from the hospital. Lu Tao is currently being treated in hospital for his injuries. The doctor was surprised because this boy became the 20th child to be sent there because of a fight. Teacher Lin, with tears in her eyes, asked the doctor to examine the student for serious injuries. At that moment, Lu Mang entered the room accompanied by hooligans and assured that his friend would definitely not die. Qin Qin and Xiao Shui were immediately delighted by the appearance of the protagonist. Yin Kuai Feng came with her uncle to visit Lu Tao. The boy was incredibly happy that his best friend came to visit him. Then he saw 3 hooligans and couldn't understand what was going on. The protagonist explained that the boys really wanted to come to Lu Tao and put on a show. The guy still couldn't understand what show they were talking about. All the bandits immediately apologized to Lu Tao and bowed. Further events continue in the school classroom. Teacher Lin began a lesson for the students. She brought the exam results with her and put them on the table. The woman congratulated the students on their excellent results, which meant that their efforts were not in vain. Lu Meng and Lu Tao were delighted and began to joke with each other. Suddenly, the teacher interrupted the students' joy with a serious tone. She reported that one of the students received 0 points. The students were surprised because even Lu Tao got high scores and the test itself was quite easy. Lu Meng laughed. Only an idiot could screw up like that. Eventually, he got his sheet with a 0 in the corner. This guy was very upset because he himself turned out to be such a fool. Lin's teacher expected an explanation for this grade because the student was dragging the entire class down. She brought the young man out in front of the whole class, but he couldn't say anything. The main character felt like the whole class was laughing at his grade. He thought that even his friends would laugh at him because of these 0 points. This guy screamed incredibly loudly from obsessive thoughts. In the end, it was just a dream, and Lu Meng woke up in his bed. He was covered in cold sweat and breathing heavily. The student had his first nightmare about exams, so he decided to at least do something about it. He went out at night to look for his niece, but the girl did not understand why this was necessary. Lu Meng was unable to explain the reasons when Yun Kuai Feng poured water. The girl didn't understand why the main character was so shy, because he could be frank with her. In the end, the guy decided not to delay and tell everything. He jumped up and walked over to his niece. Lu Meng hinted that the midterm exams would be starting soon and the dorm commander should maintain good relations with the teachers. The guy was sure that the girl would be able to get something for him. Yin Kuai-feng didn't understand what her uncle was talking about. In the end, the girl threw a stack of exam preparation books in front of Lu Meng because that was enough for the student. She had a hard time getting these materials, so she asked the guy to prepare well. The protagonist thought that his niece was doing this on purpose because he just wanted to find answers to the exam questions. Suddenly an idea came to his mind. It was deep night, and Lu Tao was sneaking somewhere. Their friend with a flashlight was waiting for him, who decided to play a joke on the guy. Lu Tao was incredibly frightened by his appearance and hoarse voice. Lu Meng covered his mouth with his hand and asked him to shut up. The main character laughed at the fact that such a big guy was so easily scared. Lu Tao explained that he came here to check something because the exams were about to start. Our hero kicked him and asked what such a scrupulous gentleman decided to check here. Lu Meng held a tiny object on his finger and said it could help with the tests. Lu Tao asked what this amazing thing was. The protagonist stood up and solemnly declared that this new invention was intended for cheating on exams, which he had purchased from a website. These were contact lenses with a built-in 200-megapixel HD scanner with copying function. With this lens, you could see anything. The friends smiled and looked at each other, saying nothing, but understanding each other perfectly. Suddenly one of the girls entered the office. It was Li Shizhua, unhappy with the deception from these guys. Lu Meng tried to lie that he and his friend came here in the evenings to disturb him when he was bored. But the girl, unfortunately, saw everything perfectly and could not believe that Lu Meng had not changed. Li Shirua said that she was already fed up with our hero's behavior, so she was upset by such comments. The girl turned around and didn't want to disturb her friends anymore. Lu Tao was worried because his classmate might tell the teacher everything. In the end, Lu Meng decided to give the lens to his friend. The guy didn't understand what this meant, but the protagonist explained that this device now belonged to Lu Tao. The event is moved to the billiard room. In this place, Mr. Song was relaxing in the company of beautiful girls. One of the beauties said that she expects compensation for moving due to the demolition of the school. He said that Vanga shouldn't worry because they would charge more money at the billiard hall. Mr. Song noted that old man Li was very smart, so it was necessary to use certain tactics. The beauty hoped that the school director would help her in this matter. Together with beautiful girls, Mr. Song left the billiard club, which was sealed for demolition. He thanked Boss Wong for helping him achieve this. The woman was grateful to the school principal for helping her with her business, so I didn't mind joining her. Mr. Song was embarrassed by this kindness. He invited Mrs. Wong to drink his new tea with him. The woman coquettishly admitted that she was invited for tea for a reason, since after the school was demolished, she had to open a tea shop. Mr. Song mentally noted that she was a cunning fox, but sooner or later she would become his. In the end, the school principal and the beauty continued to joke about each other. Meanwhile, Black Angel and Ling Ling watched the company from the car. The thief didn't understand what his plan was, to spy on his middle-aged husband. The assistant offered to jointly monitor the cameras in the toilet and bathroom of the room where Mr. Song was staying with his agent, but the Black Angel refused. Ling Ling explained that this was also part of the plan. The Black Angel trusted the girl, so he didn't object to her continuing. Meanwhile, Lu Meng did not sleep at night in the dormitory. He was chained to his desk to make him study hard for his exams. Yin Kuai-feng thought that her uncle would use the chair for interrogation, not for such good purposes. The girl noted that the main character was very diligent in achieving his goals. This chair was equipped with a feature that consisted of a chip that recognized the moment a person fell asleep and then delivered an electric shock. Yin Kwai Fong explained that she increased the strength of the attack by 7 to 8 times because the main character is not an ordinary person and he has to try incredibly hard. Lu Man became upset when he asked how to turn off this feature. The girl explained that no one without the highest level password would be able to remove the shackles. The niece noted that her uncle had not said anything before and was planning to study until dawn. Lu Man assured that he was not giving up, but simply wanted to wash his hands. The protagonist hunched over as he headed to the toilet, and Yin Kwai Feng's gaze fell on him. Fell on his pants. She noticed a yellow wet spot there. The girl realized that Lu Mang had already been electrocuted, but he continued to repeat and teach, which made her feel both pity and admiration at the same time. She called her uncle to come back later, and they continued preparing together. In fact, the protagonist lay down on the bed to rest because this torture chair almost deprived him of offspring. Lu Mang asked to bring this thing closer because he wanted to replicate another item. Yin Kwai Fong pressed the button and the chair instantly fell down. The main character was surprised by such interesting features of this game. The girl explained that the product was made of nanometal and could shrink to 3 centimeters, and decided to leave it with her uncle. She reminded me that the exam was the day after tomorrow at lunchtime and slammed the door behind her. Lu Mang believed that it would be good if information could also be compressed and placed in the brain. Looks like this guy has a new idea again. It was night, and our hero came to school. Lu Mang walked boldly under the moonlight toward his goal. He decided to call this loner and ask him something. An old acquaintance asked what prompted this guy to call him. Lu Mang asked if he had ever seen Doraemon. Lone Wolf said he saw it, but asked to speak quickly because he was on a mission. Lu Mang asked if there was any bread that reminded him of the past. A friend of mine said that there was something similar at the research center and asked if this guy needed it to decipher the code. The main character explained that he needed it for an exam. Lone Wolf screamed furiously into the phone after hearing all this nonsense. Lu Mang was unhappy with this attitude towards his problem. Suddenly, the boy heard someone's voice from behind. Someone turned to him and laughingly pointed out that the soldier was recovering. Our hero immediately recognized this familiar voice. He returned and saw in front of him the Black Angel with his assistant. The thief looked at his enemy with mocking confidence. He didn't understand why Lu Man had previously wanted to become a super soldier, but was now struggling to pass his school exams. The protagonist stated with disgust that the Black Angel was neither a woman nor a man, so he would definitely not understand the soldier. The thief was irritated by the guy's remark, but Ling Ling held her master back, and Lu Mang continued to repeat his phrase, irritating the Black Angel even more. Seeing the assistant's face, the Black Angel changed his mind about ripping out the guy's tongue. He calmed down and explained that he came here today to warn Lu Mang. The main character did not listen to him and grabbed a piece of iron. This guy wanted the thief to answer one last time. The Black Angel didn't move an inch. Ling Ling instantly appeared in front of her teacher and stopped Lu Mang. She noted that this person must compensate for the damage caused to the public good. The Black Angel continued his warnings and stated that he was not the only one who wanted to kill the protagonist. The thief demanded that Lu Mang not die until he killed the guy himself. The Black Angel quickly ran away with his assistant, and our hero got angry and tried to catch up with him. Eventually, the guys stopped because they had already escaped. Lu Man did not understand what the thief was planning. The events returned to Professor Lin's room in the dorm. Someone was persistently ringing the bell. The woman was just taking a shower, so she shouted to the guest to wait. She wondered who could come at such a late hour. It was the main character who decided to visit the teacher. She asked why the student was so late. Lu Man explained that exams were approaching, so he needed to prepare better. Teacher Lin was surprised by the student's persistence. The man apologized for disturbing the woman so late. The teacher noted that he was her student, so she was happy to help him in any way. Lu Mang was a little embarrassed by these words and the beauty of this woman. He waited on the sofa while the teacher changed. The main character was confident that with the help of Teacher Lin, he would definitely get a high grade on his exams. He was just quenching his thirst when the woman finally confessed her orientation to him. The cute clothes immediately caused Lu Man's nose to bleed. The boy asked the teacher to tell him a way to improve his grades and promised to repeat this lesson at home on his own. Teacher Lena began to explain that in order to accumulate information, one must read a lot and always think about the source of knowledge. As a result, the main character did not go home, but went for a walk. He left the teacher because she was dressed in a way that would definitely make it impossible for Lu Mang to study. During the walk, our hero reflected on the origins. He noticed a little boy asking his parents to go with him to the amusement park. The baby's father immediately agreed and stroked his head. This happy family seemed to touch Lu Meng deeply. Now, this guy's thinking about his origins. His dark thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. On the evening streets, the main character met his classmate Chen Shui. The girl asked why Lu Meng was there so late, and he explained that he was just out for a walk. As it turned out, Xiao Shui was also walking, so she invited the guy to walk together. Our hero immediately asked his friend to teach him new teaching methods. Suddenly, it started snowing in the street. Lu Meng walked while holding Xiao Shui's arm. For some reason, the girl addressed the main character as her husband and offered to buy him Christmas gifts. This guy allowed him to buy Xiao Shui whatever she wanted. She admired her so-called man. Lu Meng did everything for his princess. Suddenly, they met Santa Claus, who was loudly ringing his bells. For the married couple, this seemed rather strange. Lu Meng didn't like his grandfather twirling the bell under their noses. The sound of the bells became so loud that it reached the ears of the protagonist. It turned out it was just a dream and the sound of the alarm clock. Lu Meng woke up among the books and shouted at the old man to stop calling. A little later, he realized that Santa Claus had appeared to him in a dream. The main character was surprised by such a strange dream. Finally, he decided to look at his watch. At that moment, the guy realized that he was late for the exam. All the students were already sitting at their desks and reviewing the material. Xiao Shui noticed something frolicking at Lu Meng's table. She was nervous and hoped that the guy had not forgotten about the exam. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a sheet of worksheets falling on the table. Teacher Lin said that the exam would start in 20 minutes and asked us to clear away unnecessary things from our desks. Her gaze also fell on the empty space. The teacher noticed that Lu Meng had not arrived yet. Meanwhile, the main character, having gathered his last strength, approached the school, putting bread in his teeth. Suddenly something flew before the student's eyes. He was surprised and tried to see what was blocking his path. It was an unfamiliar girl who was happy to meet Lu Meng. Instead of running to the exam, the guy stopped. He asked the girl to wait until his final exam was completed. The stranger had no intention of backing down and letting the student pass. Finally, the protagonist decided to accept the challenge and put his briefcase on the ground. He didn't intend to see that his opponent was a girl, and he wanted to deal with her quickly. Suddenly, the main character pointed behind the girl and shouted that the teacher was there. While the stranger was distracted, Lu Meng put his brilliant plan into action and quickly disappeared. She wasn't going to let her victim go just like that. But the bodyguard did not allow her to do this because he asked what class the girl belonged to, since he had not seen her before. She apologized and explained that she had supposedly gone to the toilet. Meanwhile, the main character was already approaching the entrance to the school. The test on the stairs still awaited him. Lu Meng realized that he would not have time to walk to the office. The guy decided to use his superpowers and reach the desired floor in just a few jumps. He jumped over the fence and was almost there. The main character thought that the strange girl was very familiar to him, as if he had seen her somewhere. Meanwhile, Teacher Lin looked at her watch and kept track of the time. She warned the students that the exam would start in 30 seconds and again asked them to clear everything from their desks. Chen asked Xiao Su if Lu Meng would come. The girl said that the guy was going to study for the exam last night, so he should come. Overhearing the girls' conversation, Lu Tao became suspicious of his friend. Teacher Lin noted that the exam was very important, so those who were late would not be allowed to take it. At this moment, our hero flies into the classroom, immediately apologizes, and asks if he managed to arrive on time. After some time, the bell rang, announcing the end of the exam. The teacher finally collected all the completed exam assignments and sent them in an envelope. She congratulated her students on successfully passing their tests. The woman also reminded that tomorrow at 3 p.m. there will be a school event that everyone must attend. The students understood everything and said goodbye to the teacher. Xiao Shui and Chen watched their friend carefully. It seemed that Lu Meng was in a very bad mood after passing the exam. Xiao Shui asked how he did on the exam, and Chen could tell from his expression that it hadn't gone very well. The guy didn't answer the girls and, to his regret, moved on. Lu Tao came out of the toilet and immediately noticed his friend. He ran after the main character to talk. The friend also wanted to ask how the protagonist passed the exam, but Lu Meng was already prepared to answer. In the end, the main character couldn't take it anymore and hit his friend in the face. Without saying a word, the boy left in a depressed mood. Lu Tao ignored his friend's failure, assured him that teaching was not his strong point, and invited him to go out to eat. In the end, the protagonist remained silent again and hit his friend a second time. Further events will take place at the sports ground next to the school. Lu Meng was resting after passing the exam. He believed that he was probably at the very bottom of the list, and if he entered college, he would definitely fail the entrance exams. The guy decided to calm down and not think about it. Meanwhile, a man was walking with the workers, telling them about the school expansion tomorrow, so they had to put up a poster. He ordered them to take their time and work faster. Lu Man didn't pay attention to what was happening around him. Suddenly, something caught his attention. The sphere with the message fell into the boy's hands again. The ball came from the workers, but it was unlikely that it was them. The protagonist did not understand who it could be and why he did not come to talk in person. He opened the letter and thought about how he should catch this mysterious man. The message included an invitation to meet at 9 p.m. on the roof of a building in Vintam. Lu Man realized that history was repeating itself again. As evening approached, the events moved to Vintham's hotel. There was an unfamiliar woman sitting behind the bar. The bald man invited her to have a drink with him. She looked at the stranger with disgust. The young lady ordered the admirer to disappear from sight on the count of 3. The husband found this answer awkward and said nothing. He told the beauty not to speak to him so rudely because he was very rich. The girl didn't listen to him and started counting. The man didn't want the woman to play the losing virginity game with him because he had already seen many young girls like her. Finally, she counted to 3. At that moment, someone grabbed the man by the collar of his jacket. It was our hero who decided to quickly deal with the stranger. The fan flew away and splashed into the pool. Lu Man noted that he had solved the girl's problem, so he hoped that she would invite the guy to drink with her. The stranger happily invited the young man and offered him to drink as much as he wanted. The main character ordered a glass of dry martini. The woman asked if the man knew who she was. Lu Man jokingly said that he didn't know her name, but noted that the girl was in excellent shape on the night they met. The stranger was embarrassed by such a remark addressed to her. The protagonist placed the dagger he had taken from the killer on the table. He explained with a smile that he had saved this thing for her and expected gratitude for it. The stranger remained silent, and he was pleased that he had exposed the killer. The woman decided to take off her mask and show her real face. The main character was surprised by this turn of events. A memory flashed through his mind, a photograph of a little girl with green hair. Now she was sitting right in front of Lu Man, and her name was Yu Ruan Ming. The guy realized that she was Captain Sui's daughter. During a joint mission, Lu Man killed the captain of the Condor Squad. The soldier sat sadly and silently sipped his drink, immersed in memories that caused him incredible pain. Finally, he put down the glass and decided to talk to the girl. Now Lu Man understood why Yu Ruan Ming wanted to kill him. But in reality, things with her father were not as she imagined. The events moved to Vietnam, where the murder of Yu Ruan Ming's father took place. Hot drops of fresh red blood flowed down the leaves of the plants that were in the center of pain. The main character carried his wounded brother by the shoulder. It was very hard for the guy, but he couldn't leave his friend to his fate. He encouraged the captain by saying that there were only a few kilometers left of the camp. The son-in-law asked to leave him alone because the enemies would certainly come for Lu Manhwa. Suddenly, a rifle shot rang out, the bullet instantly cutting through the air. A sinister bullet pierced the captain's knee. His throat started bleeding, and Lu Ming tried to hold him down to protect him from the sniper. Lying on the ground, the protagonist inquired about his brother's condition. Meanwhile, the enemies had almost reached the soldiers to take them prisoner. Hearing this, the main character thought about what to do next in such a difficult situation. This guy decided to put the half-dead captain under a tree. In the end, the desperate Lu Ming decided to face the enemies alone. The brother gathered his strength and placed his bloody hand on the young man's shoulder. He explained that Lu Ming had little ammunition, so he would certainly die in battle, but they were also impossible to capture. Taking all factors into account, the captain gave the order for his cold-blooded murder. The terrorists were already quite close to the soldiers. Lu Ming was upset when he heard his brother's order. He burst into tears, believing that they were destined to die together, and besides, he could not afford to lose such a captain. At that moment, the captain realized that he had only made an already difficult situation worse. The husband laughed because the brave soldier disobeyed his orders. Lu Man remembered that the captain was the first one to talk to him after the guy joined the crew. The protagonist did not lose hope of returning to the camp alive. The captain reminded that a soldier should not lose honor due to emotions and must obey the orders of a superior. He ordered Flying Eagle 007 to carry out this order. Eventually, the captain began bleeding heavily from the wound. With trembling hands, Lu Ming took out his pistol to carry out the final task assigned to him by his senior rank. The man pointed the gun at the captain to make him carry out the order. His last instruction was to ask the protagonist to take care of his daughter. Lu Ming screamed in rage and fired the fatal shot. There was a photograph of that ominous moment on the bar counter. This is exactly what happened, and the Vietnamese used this photograph to prove Lu Ming's guilt before the state. The protagonist was looking for the captain's daughter, but by that time, she had already disappeared. Yu Ruoming couldn't be sure that this guy was telling her the truth. Suddenly, Lu Meng took out a weapon and handed it to the girl. He offered to kill the captain's daughter if she did not believe this story. Yu Ruoming agreed and pointed the gun at her father's killer. She thought that this guy killed the person closest to her. Even if he was telling the truth, he is still a murderer. However, the girl still had doubts about this radical step. Lu Meng had an invisible power that prevented Yu Ruoming from killing him. He had already died once at the hands of the girl, and she swore that she would no longer try to kill our hero. The main character was upset that she was on the verge of death, but Yu Ruoming ordered the guy to follow her because she wanted to talk to him. They entered the elevator, but a man with a bat in his hands was already waiting for them. It was a bald fan and his group, who were ashamed that our hero had ruined a suit from the limited edition collection. Lu Man immediately decided to join the fight. He considered this a good opportunity to demonstrate his strength in front of Ruoming and change her attitude. The husband ordered his men to teach Lu Meng a lesson. Our hero told the girl to hide behind him and not to be afraid of anything. Zhimeng didn't wait and suddenly jumped up from her seat. She expertly sent the rebounded ball straight into the fan's face. The girl then pushed the man in the stomach, and Lu Meng watched silently. The protagonist watched as Ruoming single-handedly dealt with the entire gang and realized that she was the only one to fear here. After a small quarrel, Ruoming and Lu Man finally left the inn. The guy asked where she got such impeccable fighting skills. The girl explained that her father had taught her this since childhood. Then Lu Man realized why her fighting style was similar to the captain's. They continued walking down the street together. The main character noticed an expensive car and wondered whose it was. Something occurred to him, and he called Zhomeng. The guy pretended it was his car and invited his friend to sit down and rest. Zhomeng highly praised Lu Man's good car. The main character immediately pretended that he had forgotten his keys at the hotel. He wanted to ask the manager to drive him and call a taxi for Zhomeng. The girl took out the keys and opened the car door, and Lu Man was frightened by the sound she heard. She asked sarcastically when she became a leader. In the end, Ruoming brought the protagonist to her majestic estate. Lu Man had no idea how rich she was. The girl explained that in the League of Assassins her status is considered average. The protagonist became interested after hearing about the League of Assassins. Then they went to the rich house of Zhomeng. Our hero couldn't do anything, and the girl didn't understand why it was so difficult. Lu Meng was so tense that sweat ran down his forehead. It turned out that he was trying to open a can of canned fish, which was very tightly sealed. After all the effort, the guy finally opened the can. Now Ruoming happily tasted her favorite dish and offered it to the protagonist, but he refused and was surprised that such a girl would eat such food. In the end, Lu Meng asked the girl about the League of Assassins. She put down her spoon and stopped eating. The girl explained that it was an organization that united the best killers from each country. After passing the test, hired killers are given assignment from their employers to carry out assassinations for a fee. Different rewards are provided for completing tasks of different levels. Ruoming stated that the reward for killing the protagonist is $300,000, which is the minimum reward level. The guy was unhappy that he was so underestimated. He asked the girl to look again because he thought she had made a mistake. In the end, Ruoming found out that the reward was $30 million. Then our hero understood why the Black Angel warned him of danger. The man was surprised when he spoke about a person who was neither a man nor a woman. The man thanked her for her hospitality and was about to leave. Suddenly the girl invited him to live with her, because living together was better than living alone. Lu Man thought that she didn't believe in his abilities. But Jo Man didn't just believe, she just didn't want anything to happen to this guy. The girl burst into tears because the main character was the only person close to her. Lu Man did not listen to her, took his things, and was about to leave. In conclusion, he promised that he would never abandon Jo Man and would always protect her. The events move on to Li Fu Gue, who was standing with the guys in the courtyard. He said that from tomorrow they would obey and carry out his orders. The unfamiliar group of young people understood everything and nodded. Li Fu Gue promised to pay each of them an extra 50 if they completed the task. They had no idea, but Lu Meng was watching this deal from the window. Meanwhile, Black Angel was relaxing in the pool at his residence. Ling Ling said that everything is ready by tomorrow. Zhou Zheng lit a cigar and waited for Lu Meng to leave. The next morning, the students stood at the stadium and waited for the event to begin. Lu Tao noted that the protagonist had not been sleeping at night lately and asked if he was taking care of his health. Lu Meng was irritated by this incident and lightly hit his friend. The boys then met Xiao Shui and Qin Qin. The enamored Lu Meng quickly ran to the object of his affections, while Lu Tao silently watched what was happening. Qin Qin noticed that Si Ruo was on stage. Principal Song was giving a speech, and a girl and the principal were standing behind. He said that today was a joyful day for the start of the school's reorganization and gave the floor to the student representative, Li Shizhua. The girl was greeted with loud applause. Meanwhile, the students were discussing that she was the daughter of the director of the East Ocean Group Corporation. Li Fu Gue arrived in the West with his men and ordered them to capture and tie up Shizhua. At that moment, the girl expressed gratitude to her father's company for helping the school. A Black Angel employee decided to distract her with strange questions. He jumped onto the stage, holding a piece of rebar in his hands. Li Fu Gue demanded an explanation from a girl. Shi Ruo felt awkward about having her speech interrupted like this. Principal Song was annoyed that they were trying to sabotage the measure. He threatened Li Fu Gue that he would call the police. Without waiting for the teacher to take further action, the boy smeared the reinforcements right in his eyes. The students were surprised by this unexpected turn of events. Principal Song fell to the ground, suffering such serious injuries. Li Fu Gue felt disgusted when he looked at his teacher because he considered this man a scumbag. Shi Ruo tried to run away, but the thieves were already approaching her. They immediately grabbed the girl and screamed. Suddenly, someone deftly snatched it from the bandits' hands. Lu Meng didn't like that the bullies dared to touch his classmate. Li Fu Gue was planning to kidnap her and demand compensation from East Ocean Group for the damage caused. The protagonist suggested that they simply try to approach him. The students were ordered to leave the podium and return to class. Lu Man was surrounded by bandits, and Shi Ruo hid behind him. Li Fu Gue ordered this guy to betray his classmate and block their way. Our hero was not afraid for a second and advised him to run away with his men before that guy got angry. The bandit became angry and waved the rebar, frightening Shizhua. Lu Man told his friend not to be afraid because he would protect her. Another man ran onto the stage and shouted for them to wait. It was the girl's father who asked what the bandits wanted to talk about and begged them not to touch his daughter. Father told Shi Ruo not to approach him and to stand next to Lu Meng because it was safer that way. Li Fu Gue asked if this man was really Li's boss. The bandit explained that they had gathered there to seek justice from the head of the company. Boss Li suggested discussing all cultural issues over a cup of tea. Lu Man noticed that the man was very calm, so it was no wonder that he was the director of East Ocean Group. Li Fu Gue thought that they were just ordinary people who had no right to sit at the table with such a respected person, so he simply asked them for money. The head of the corporation explained that the money for depreciation had been paid in full in accordance with the agreements signed by both parties, so he asked for time to clarify the details of what was happening. One of Li Fu Gue's employees whispered something in his ear. He looked at Li Shizhua carefully, which made her nervous. Li Fu Gue asked if the daughter was Boss Li's most valuable treasure. He suggested that the girl leave with the bandits, while her father prepared compensation for the damage caused. Shizhua voluntarily agreed to leave with the strangers. The protagonist mentally noted that the girl looked weak, but in fact she had a strong spirit. Lu Meng also decided to leave, and his unexpected decision stunned everyone. The man told Director Li not to worry because his daughter would be safe with him. The manager knew that if this continued, it would have a serious impact on the company, so letting Li Si Ruo go with her friend would be more beneficial. He considered Lu Meng to be an unusual person, so he entrusted his daughter to him. Finally, Boss Li made a decision and let his daughter go. But he warned that if Shizhua lost even one hair, his father would kill him for it. Li Fu Gue chuckled and said nothing. Other events continue at the hotel. The bandits decided to leave the protagonist and Shi Ruo alone in a locked room for the whole night. Li Fu Gue promised to let them go immediately once they had settled everything and left. The girl watched as Lu Man searched the entire perimeter of the room. She asked the guy what he was doing. The protagonist explained that he was simply looking around the house. Shizhua hoped to find something that would help them escape. So far, Lu Meng only knew that there was only one bed in the room, so they would have to sleep together tonight. The girl immediately occupied the room and forbade our hero to enter it. This guy reminded her that he once saved her. Shi Ruo was grateful to him for this, but her attitude towards Lu Meng still did not change. She turned and walked to her room. The girl's words somewhat offended the main character. Finally, Lu Meng decided to take a little rest and collapsed onto the sofa. His rest was immediately interrupted by Li Shi Ruo's shout. The main character immediately jumped up and ran to the girl. Shi Ruo jumped out, hugged the guy, and explained that there was a cockroach. She was very scared because the insect was very big. Lu Man stopped paying attention because his nose started bleeding after the hug. The guy immediately started laughing because for his own safety, it would be better for him to be in the room with the girl. Shizhua couldn't stand it, called him a fool, and slapped him hard on the cheek. Meanwhile, a downpour with lightning started outside the window. Li Fu Gue's men were at the hotel. They played cards with the main character and ended up losing. The boys continued playing, and a quarrel arose between them. Eventually, they got very angry and started beating each other. Lu Mang paid no attention and watched the pouring rain through the window. He was pacing around the room when he heard Shi Ruo scream again. The man opened the door and asked if she was okay. The protagonist saw the girl hide under the blanket and tremble. He didn't understand what had happened to her. Lu Mang began to mockingly see Zhua, claiming that he was afraid of thunder. She asked why the man had entered the room, as he was forbidden to do so. A loud clap of thunder was heard outside again. Shi Ruo was frightened again and screamed in fear. The girl jumped up and hugged the main character again. She hit Lu Mang's stomach quite hard, and he felt the strength displayed by the fragile girl. Frightened, Shi Ruo clung tightly to the guy. He gently stroked the girl's head and assured her that everything was okay because he was there. Shi Ruo asked our hero to remain silent when lightning struck again. Lu Mang stood in his arms holding the girl, watching the rain. Suddenly, the main character heard a strange scream outside the door. The protagonist asked the girl to stay in the room and lock the door while he watched what was happening. He once again demanded that she would shut up and leave. She was alarmed by Lu Mang's behavior. In the main character's room, he was met by the guys with whom he was playing cards. He asked them whose voice it was. The guys didn't understand what was happening and thought it was Hei. One of them realized that Hei was in the next room. When they entered this room, they saw no one there. The main character did not understand what happened to the leader of the guys. One of them was sure that the leader had just been here. The second one suggested that the sound was coming from above. Lu Mang thought for a moment and decided to go up to the top floor. When he arrived at room 806, there were already a lot of people standing there. The men standing nearby couldn't believe this was happening to them and were about to call the police. The main character was very surprised to see what was in the room. There, Li Fu Gue was chained to the bed with a dagger stabbed into his heart. Lu Mang moved closer to examine the details of the murder. The boy noticed that the killer had extraordinary skills, and the dagger's blade was flawless. One blow from this professional, and the man turned into a corpse. The protagonist began to analyze the hotel room itself. It was a normal room with an entrance on the right and a bathroom on the left, and inside there was a large bed. Suddenly the windows opened and a fresh breeze blew. This caught Lu Mang's attention, and he decided to take a closer look at the windowsill. In the end, this guy found, namely, the killer's shoe prints. Just in case, he decided to look out the window. Having found nothing there, the protagonist began to think about this murder. Lu Mang remembered that Shi Ruo was still alone in the room. At this time, the girl's father was driving on business and looking at his phone. The man looked at a photograph with his beloved daughter. He was very worried that the girl he loved was now in danger. He received a call informing him of the events at the hotel. Meanwhile, the main character realized that he had been deceived. This guy realized this when he came to the room where Li Shi Ruo was no longer there. Hei's murder was just a pretext, since the main target was the girl. Lu Mang left her room to think things over better. He thought about how Shi Ruo always came to class, and someone always walked her back and forth, but she was left alone during class. There were many ways to kidnap a girl without killing the person. Lu Mang was confident and wanted to solve this matter on his own, regardless of who kidnapped his classmate. Meanwhile, Li's father arrived at the training camp in Haidong province. He ordered his agents to find his daughter or they would be out of work. One of the security guards asked the director not to worry and said that he had already sent people to search. Boss Li ordered the captain to arrest everyone involved in this matter. But most of all, the man wanted to see the red-haired guy. Meanwhile, Lu Mang sneezed and calmly thought that someone missed him. Then he noticed that cameras were watching him. It turned out that this guy was sitting in an interrogation room. One of the guards informed Lu Mang that someone wanted to meet him. It was, and he was glad to meet this guy. The main character didn't understand why his friend was here. He hoped that his old friend could get him out of here, and noted that this was impossible because the problem was quite serious. Lu Mang wanted to know what she meant, but the girl simply handed him a piece of paper and asked him to look at it. In front of him lay the report on the examination of Li Fu Gui's body. The main character already knew everything that was written there, so he asked Anna to come up with something new. She started talking about the fingerprints on the knife and the footprints on the balcony, and remarked that there was something surprising about it. Lu Mang was immediately interested in what they had, and reported shocking news. The murder weapon turned out to be the man's army knife. The protagonist stated that it was simply impossible. He recalled that when he left the army, he took this weapon with him, but never used it, instead keeping it under the mattress in his apartment. Lu Mang believed that the probability of the knife being stolen was 0, and was sure it was his weapon because she saw a letter he had carved into the handle in the photograph. The worried protagonist confirmed that the letter was indeed there. The girl brought this knife with her. She saw it at the police station, and besides, there were Lu Mang's fingerprints on the weapon. And alarmed and said police were now gathering further evidence against the man. Lu Mang asked her if Li Sijua had been found yet. The girl explained that the storm never died down, so all traces were washed away, and also mentioned that Lu Mang's fingerprints were found on Li Sijua's windowsill. She explained that the tracks led to the crime scene on the 8th floor. The protagonist still did not understand how this was possible. His footprints between the 6th and 8th floors were unclear, and besides, if the Black Angel was the killer, the prints would not match given the size of his feet. Lu Mang was tense about his enemy's plans. Another man entered the interrogation room. The employee apologized for the concern shown for our heroes. It was Chin Chin from the police who had an urgent order. The guy immediately appreciated the beauty of the stranger, which Anna did not like. The policeman had a warrant for her arrest and said that Lu Man would be transferred to their prison. Upon learning of his own arrest, the protagonist's feelings instantly changed. Other police officers smoked under the building, waiting for the prime suspect. Lu Man, like a true thief, was escorted out of the building by several guards, and this guy left Li Sijua's case to his trusted friend. Anna agreed and promised to find a way to free our hero. The car in which Lu Man was riding drove away, and the girl said goodbye to him. She knew this guy was innocent, and she knew the Black Angel wouldn't leave him alone. Anna believed that prison was the safest place for the main character, and that eyes would not solve all problems. Lu Mang continued on his way, accompanied by Chen Qing. He had to go through the test again, being left alone with the girl. She asked Xiao Zhang to turn on the air conditioning because it was very hot in the car. The driver reported that the air conditioning was not working and asked to open the windows. Now Lu Man was even more embarrassed by the policeman's appearance. Her cleavage was slightly exposed, her tie was lowered, and it looked quite cute. The protagonist turned to the window and tried his best to stop the bleeding. Suddenly, Chen Qing slammed her hand on the seat and turned to face Lu Mang. The man began to make excuses and explained that he simply wanted to open the window. The police thought he wanted to escape. Because the girl had become too close to Lu Mang, he couldn't stand it anymore. His blood got on Chen Qing's clothes, and she requested support from headquarters. Eventually, they arrived at Haidong County Prison. The duty officer asked the officer to write her name in the log. Chen Qing wrote a document and asked her to hand it over to Chief Wang. One of the officers said that the men's cell was overcrowded, so Lu Man would be transferred to the women's cell for the night. The girl wasn't sure if this was normal, since this guy was the main suspect in the murder. Out of joy, the main character began to break dance, and the police were surprised by such behavior in prison. Lu Mang was led through long corridors, each containing numerous cells. He entered his wife's room with a smile. This guy had a premonition of seeing incredible beauties imprisoned there. The shy protagonist forgave him for the inconvenience and said that he would stay there for the night. Several pairs of eyes were looking at him from the darkness. Before Lu Man, there were girls who were not at all like those who simply wanted to be beautiful. All the guy's hopes were instantly dashed. He nervously apologized again and turned away from his cellmates. One of them grabbed our hero by the shoulder and asked if he was coming. Puzzled, Lu Mang said that he was a man, so no one could stop him, and advised the woman not to touch him because a man would definitely not show affection. The cellmate was glad about this because she wanted her husband not to be soft with her. Hungry women surrounded poor Lu Mang, and he screamed at them not to touch him. Finally, the protagonist's piercing scream echoed throughout the prison. The events shift to the police station, where a security guard notices Xiao Shui. The man noticed that she was always going somewhere secretly. The girl explained that she came to visit one person. The policeman informed Xiao Shui that Lu Man had been transferred to prison. The husband asked the guy who this girl was and whether she was his companion. Xiao Shui said that she was just a classmate and friend of the inmate, and they had a very good relationship. Events returned to Haidong County Prison. The main character woke up after a hard night in a women's cell. Lu Man sat there, covered in kisses, his clothes torn, unable to believe that he had been forced to do this. He was unhappy that he had to beat women. This guy didn't consider his cellmates to be women, so it was just self-defense. The policeman laughed when he heard how Lu Mang was able to subdue these prisoners. The main character finally begged to be transferred to a men's cell. The security guard said there were still no vacancies, but added that some people wanted to meet the guy. The police took our hero away to the meeting. Lu Man did not understand who wanted to see him at such a time and thought it was Anna. The protagonist was brought into a meeting room. There, an unfamiliar officer with pink hair was waiting for the guy. She was incredibly beautiful and immediately looked at the prisoner who was brought to her. Lu Mang highly praised the officer's extraordinary beauty. He didn't pay attention to the fact that he was chained to the chair, but simply enjoyed the beauty. The protagonist asked why the officer decided to meet him at such a late hour. The girl sat on the table in front of him and asked if he was really Lu Man. Then the guy realized that they definitely didn't know each other, and besides, he would definitely remember such a beauty. The stranger did not understand why Lu Man was talking about the officer. She came close to our hero's face, and he immediately thought that the girl had fallen in love with him. The officer came very close to the man's lips. In the end, Lu Mang decided not to resist and surrender to the old woman. But the officer was already sitting on the chair opposite. She expected that a soldier with a strong psychological character would not look away at such closeness. The protagonist explained that the woman was so beautiful that he could not take his eyes off her. It turned out that the woman's name was Manhwa, and she was the head of this prison. The man introduced himself as a newly arrived prisoner and shook the officer's hand. Manhwa seemed very familiar to our hero, and he suspected the Black Angel's involvement in this meeting. The prison warden explained that she had only called the prisoner there to ask him to behave well and not cause problems. Lu Man understood everything and promised to behave well. The boy had already been given new clothes and basic necessities, and he was taken to another cell. He thought that the officer was not an ordinary girl, so he had to handle her with care. Meanwhile, the guard turned off Lu Man's new camera. There his cellmates were already waiting for the main character. The new neighbors didn't seem welcoming or friendly enough. Big Bill was jailed for fighting. Chan Ho Nam stole something, and Lu Yu was sentenced for robbery. They immediately realized that a new person was moving in with them. Lu Man owned house number 9527, and he will now live here. The officer ordered the bandits to behave normally and not to do anything strange because he would immediately attack the leader. Lu Yu politely told the bodyguard that everything would be fine and he could go. Lu Man immediately laid down on the bed. The cellmate didn't like this and got angry. Lu Yu thought that this guy was looking down on them and wanted to fight. Big Bill stopped his friend. He took a pack of cigarettes and a lighter from under the blanket. Chan Ho Nam helped the bandit light a cigarette. Big Bill asked his cellmate to explain the rules to the new arrival. Chan Ho Nam revealed that Bill was the cell boss and introduced himself along with Lu Yu. The main character looked seriously at his new neighbor. Eventually, he corrected himself and remarked that Brother Nam was quite a good person. Chan Ho Nam further explained that in this cell, recruits are beaten and then deprived of half of their food rations. Lu Mang didn't like this and moved his neighbor's hand away from himself. The guy was ready to move to the food department, but he definitely didn't want to fight. Then Brother Nam decided not to wait and attacked our hero. Lu Man, without thinking twice, defended himself and hit him in the face. Chan Ho Nam couldn't believe that the newbie would even hit him. The main character decided not to wait and hit his neighbor again. Eventually, the cellmate burst into tears from the blows he had received. He was so confused that Lu Man felt embarrassed by his strange behavior. Chan Ho Nam ran to Big Bill to complain about the new arrival. As a result, the boss also hit the poor guy. All the cellmates surrounded the main character. Big Bill explained that the rules here must be followed. Lu Man noted that the rules were made by people, so he decided to run this prison from now on. A spark flew between Big Bill and the young man. The boss warned the protagonist not to be offended by him in the future. Under such circumstances, Lu Mang also had no intention of showing affection. The prisoners took off their outer clothing and prepared for the test. Big Bill was puffing and was already on the edge. Lu Man didn't understand how he could compete at such a low level. It turned out that they had an endurance test, so the prepared protagonist did not feel anything and was not worried. Big Bill explained that there were no capable people in this prison, so he didn't expect this from the main character. Finally, the boss couldn't take it anymore and fell. His friends were afraid for their Bill. Lu Mang mockingly asked if his opponent was tired yet. Big Bill admitted defeat and ordered Lu Yu and Chan Ho Nam to call the boy Big Brother. The prisoners immediately bowed their heads to Lu Man. Bill's former boss noted that he had to learn a few rules. The man began to look for something in his things. Lu Mang wondered what else they could teach him. Big Bill gave him some kind of black bag. Knitting needles and threads were available. The main character asked what he should do with all these things. Big Bill began to knit and explained that it was work that gave them the strength to go on. He explained that prison isn't just an apartment with a table and chair, but also a place of re-education through labor, so it's impossible to relax here. In the end, Bill decided to give a brief overview and train our hero. First, he showed this guy the place where they work. Lu Man was surprised by how happily these stocky men knitted various things. Evening had come, and the prisoner's work was still in full swing. Big Bill noted that the guy was still a fast learner. At that moment, another group of prisoners entered the room. Bill explained to the protagonist that he had to be careful with these three. The prisoner with the scar on his face was named Li Kuei. The disease cultivated by their gang members was named Li Do Li. The tall guy with glasses was named Li Xiao. Lu Mang asked if they all belonged to the Li clan. Big Bill confirmed this guy's suspicions. Suddenly, the gang approached Lu Man's company. Li Kuei congratulated the newcomer and was glad to see him. The husband moved on, but our hero did not respond to the congratulations. Gang member Li asked if Lu Meng knew the local rules. The protagonist asked with a smile and without fear what they were talking about. Li Xiao explained that the newcomer had to be defeated. An angry Lu Meng stood up and knocked over the table. Everyone around was surprised by the newcomer's desperation. The protagonist asked what would happen if he did not agree with this device. This made Li Kuei very angry, and he decided to teach the impudent man a lesson. The guards approached the prisoners, seeing that something was happening. They thought that the thieves were already planning to start a fight. Li Kuei made some gesture towards the guards to stop them. Police wanted to charge gang member Li with one charge. Lu Meng noticed this strange interaction and thought that things were getting more and more interesting. Li Xiao and the protagonist still stood tensely, and everyone around them watched what happened next. The guy was smiling because he had an idea. He announced to the entire team that he would establish new rules today. Lu Meng threw Li Kai against the wall with all his might. Our hero's cellmates observed his fortitude and admired it. The boy mockingly asked if Li Kai had all the necessary abilities. The protagonist approached the rest of the clan members and asked if they were ready. The robbers did not understand what they needed to prepare for, and Lu Meng explained that he was going to teach them a lesson as well. Li Xiao got angry and was about to hit the guy, but he didn't even move. At the last second before the strike, Lu Meng managed to deftly dodge. The protagonist was able to skillfully grab his opponent's hand. Li Xiao began to beg because he was in great pain from this reception. Lu Meng kicked his opponent and knocked him down. The robber fell so hard that he broke his glasses. Meanwhile, the heated protagonist was calling for the next opponent. Lu Meng also quickly dealt with the next prisoner. Li also hit the floor hard and started arguing about his failure. Li's gang was completely defeated and scattered throughout the workshop. Lu Meng asked if the beatings the hooligans had received were enough. Li Kai wasn't enough, so he wasn't going to give up. The protagonist was surprised by his opponent's resilience after receiving injuries. In the end, the guy agreed to a rematch with the gang leader. The prisoners pushed tables together to create a fighting arena. Lu Meng gave his opponent 5 tries, and if Li Kuei won on the first try, he would remain in prison. The gang leader thought the guy was strong, but he acted like a child, so because of his arrogance, he would definitely lose. Li Kuei believed the newcomer should be held accountable for his words. The rivals met eyes, and lightning flashed between them. The gang leader immediately attacked the main character. He was furious that Lu Meng did not fear or respect him at all, despite Li Kuei being in power. The protagonist easily dodged the enemy's attacks and mocked his strength. Li Kuei suspected that this guy was up to something. Lu Meng delivered his signature kick again, sending the bandit flying away again. Li Kuei was thrown across the room, fell, and landed face down on the floor. The prisoners were surprised at how quickly it happened, but they thought it was a terrible blow for the prisoner. Even after being injured, Li Kuei found the strength to jump and continue the fight. He was not going to give up because he had 4 more tries. Lu Meng was still not afraid and did not tense up at all. Li Kai was hit hard again in all subsequent attempts. He could not believe that his defeat was possible, and therefore he felt ashamed. The protagonist, like a true honest fighter, approached his opponent, shook his hand, and said that Li Kuei had fought well. The boy smiled and asked Li Kuei if he could call him brother. The words heard by the gang leader touched him. The protagonist called him his older brother and offered his help. Finally, moved, Li Kuei took the noble Lu Meng's hand. The prisoner stood and silently watched this act, which was strange to them. After this situation, Lu Meng became an ideal in the eyes of his cellmates, and now they even gave him massages. Brother Nam suggested that the protagonist give Li Kuei something as a gift. The guy said it should be his choice. Big Bill laughed at the fact that his brother only knew how to eat rice and go to the toilet. Lu Meng did not like this mockery, so he ordered Billy. He advised them not to lose control of themselves if there was another person in the cell. This guy was a mentor to his cellmates, so he asked if they understood everything. Meanwhile, a security guard approached the door and said that the main character was expected in the visiting room. Lu Meng immediately became serious, wondering who wanted to see him. The man was brought into the room and began to wait for his guest. He believed that only Anna could visit him. The girl was taken to the visiting room. Lu Meng returned to find out who had come to see him. It turned out that it was Xiao Shui, who immediately inquired about the fate of her friend in prison. The main character immediately asked what brought the girl here. Xiao Shui was embarrassed and explained that she just wanted to visit her classmate and feed him some rice. Lu Meng pretended to be interested in learning about the girl's family's life and their move, but this only made her angry. In fact, Xiao Shui cooked his favorite dish for the protagonist. The guy became curious about what was in his girlfriend's package. It had been a long time since Lu Man had visited a girl at home and asked her for some delicious food. Xiao Shui watched the scene and asked the protagonist to enjoy the dish a little more carefully. Lu Man praised her and said that her chosen one would be very lucky because she was a very good cook. The boy finished eating and started playing with chopsticks. It seemed like Xiao Shui didn't like it and was worried about something. The girl said that everyone thought Lu Mang was a terrible thief, but she believed that the main character was treated unfairly. He wondered if Xiao Shui really believed him. She trusted him completely and believed that Mao Ran was to blame for everything. The girl's words seemed to surprise the protagonist. He didn't expect to lose so badly because of his guesses. For some reason, Xiao Shui felt embarrassed when she wanted to say something else. The protagonist asked what his friend wanted to add. She reached out to Lu Man and kissed him on the cheek. The girl plucked up her courage and confessed her love to our hero. Returning to his cell, the boy was lost in his thoughts about Xiao Chun, who was immediately noticed by his neighbors. Big Bill believed their boss had committed a crime and was now afraid that they would condemn him. Meanwhile, the main character's thoughts were occupied only with the beauty who had recently confessed her feelings to him. He remembered how adorable the devil Xiao Chun was. His sweet dreams were interrupted by Bill, who finally decided to talk to his friend. His cellmate assured him that our hero's crime meant nothing, that he would still remain a hero to them, and that in 18 years they would greet him with honor when he was released. Lu Mang didn't understand what Big Bill meant at all, so he kicked him again. Brother Nam explained that the guys were going to arrange a grand afterlife journey for the main character. Lu Man didn't like this topic at all, so Chang Honam also got punched in the face. Our hero woke up Lu Yu so that he could say something to his cellmates. He gathered all his neighbors around him. It was a secret, so Lu Mang asked them not to tell anyone about it. Big Bill promised to keep quiet if his older brother said so. Eventually, the protagonist declared that he wanted to get out of prison. Upon hearing such shocking news, the friends began to scream in horror. Lu Mang was irritated by their reaction and ordered them not to shout. He explained that the exit from the prison is carefully guarded. But there was also a weak point, namely the toilet in the room. Next to it, there was a tuendi through which one could go out onto the street. The changing of the guard in Tanjaman took place at 1500 hours and lasted about 5 minutes. There were a lot of city dwellers in Building A, so we had to make our way through them, and no one found the refugees. This is exactly what Lu Mang's prison escape plan looked like. He promised 2 phones to whoever breaks through this tunnel. Big Bill asked to distribute phones to everyone, but the main character considered this too simple a solution. After some time, the guy was lying on the bed and looking at his gadgets. He thought that he couldn't waste time any longer because the Black Angel didn't know anything or didn't want to know. Moreover, Lu Mang did not know where poor Li Sijua was. The events continue in the workshop, where nervous prisoners are hard at work. The protagonist gave a sign to his allies with his gaze. Big Bill saw this and understood everything. The cellmate suddenly started fighting with Li Kuei. The prisoner asked Bill irritably if he had a headache. Lu Mang's ally explained that this was supposedly because Li Kuei did not pay attention to him. The Li gang immediately stood up to defend their leader. Li Kuei invited Bill to come out and have a serious talk. The guards immediately noticed the tension between the prisoners and rushed towards them. Big Bill looked at the protagonist and waited for further instructions. He noticed that he was showing signs that everything was okay. Bill then rushed to attack Li Kuei. The prisoner stopped him because he didn't want to hurt other people. As a result, all workshop participants found themselves in a state of complete chaos. Under this noise, Lu Meng tried to escape from the room. Then the main character went to the toilet. Another officer received a message that reinforcements were needed in the prison block. The guard, who was watching the necessary exit, ran to help his comrades. Then our hero had the opportunity to freely escape from this block. There was a password on the door, and Lu Meng suspected it would not be simple. The boy thought that Brother Bai would handle this task quite quickly, but he needed to hurry. He started to break the door mechanism. Our hero was glad that he could finally leave this place. Suddenly, a guard appeared behind him and asked Lu Meng what he was doing. He denied doing anything like that. The guy immediately recognized Yusuker's familiar voice. The woman sees for the first time that someone has dared to escape from her prison. She stated that everything was fine and Lu Man could continue his work without any problems. The mechanism on the doors announced that they had finally opened. The main character did not wait and ran away from the warden. She simply stood on the threshold and watched her fugitive. Yusuker thought that each time she liked this guy more and more. Meanwhile, Lu Meng escaped and found himself behind prison walls. He hid and was glad that the boss would definitely not catch him. Suddenly, behind the main character, her voice was heard again. The woman noted that our hero ran simply terribly. Now, they stood together at the drink machines on the prison grounds. Yusuker bought 1 can for both of them and threw 1 can to a disgruntled Lu Meng. Our hero asked how the boss knew about his escape plan. She explained that she knew about the weaknesses of her prison and that this was the perfect way to escape. Luman asked how Yusuke managed to catch up with him if he ran 3 kilometers in 3 minutes. She stated that this guy really ran like a turtle. The boss clutched the tin can in his hands in anger. The children who were collecting trash came up to him and asked him to put the can in the basket. Luman immediately fertilized the embryo and gave it to the children. Yusuke said that she had another jar. The children were delighted and noted that the woman was very nice. The boss also decided to treat them with sugar and fruit candies. Lu Meng watched from the sidelines how cute Yusuke was. Finally, the woman said goodbye to her children. She asked the protagonist why he didn't run away now while she was distracted. The main character stated that he was not afraid of the boss and could run away whenever he wanted. Yusuke noticed that he wouldn't be able to escape, so she asked him what he really wanted. Lu Man noticed that he felt awkward standing next to her. Meanwhile, a large SUV drove up to our heroes. Yusuke asked if the protagonist was ready to go. Agents in suits emerged from the car with a strange device in their hands. Lu Meng then became suspicious and asked the boss what she meant. Yusuke explained that there was no point in leaving this guy under her care in prison. The agents tied our hero's hands with this device so that he would end up in their hands. Lu Man asked where they were taking him, if not to prison. Yusuke explained that everything would become clear upon arrival at the destination. The staff put a bag over the protagonist's head for safety reasons. The events will then move to a recreation area in the Suin district. There, Yu Ruan Meng was talking to someone on the phone. Having heard the girl's conversation, and, who was standing behind her, suspected something was wrong. The commander said that she was back for a short time. Ruan Meng was incredibly happy to meet Sister In. The girl immediately hugged Anna and said that she already knew that the commander had found Ermi. She invited the guest to sit down and went to get a drink. Anna hadn't seen her friend for several years and noticed that she had become quite pretty. The commander decided to pay her a compliment and told Ruan Meng that she was becoming more and more beautiful every year. After some time, a fragrant cup of hot coffee appeared on the table and was carefully studying something on her tablet, and Ruan Meng asked what was so interesting there. The commander explained that Lu Man was being monitored and it seemed like he was someone's target. The men became nervous because she guessed that this was a conspiracy against her loved one. The prime suspect was the Black Angel. The events moved to the residence of the Black Angels. Zhou Zeng was in his wardrobe, where there were many suits. He was trying on women's clothes and a wig when, looking in the mirror, he noticed that he had gained a little weight. The husband believed that the rice was to blame for everything. At this moment, Ling Ling entered the room and reported some problems. The Black Angel didn't pay attention to this and asked the girl if she liked the outfit. Ling Ling added that Lu Meng had been captured, Gai Zongchun had been captured, and Wang Peng was on his way. The thief grinned because he really liked this kind of news. Then Black Angel realized that Lu Meng had taken advantage of their bait. Meanwhile, the girls were relaxing in the jacuzzi at Zhou Meng's house and snorted in disdain when she heard that the girl was making face masks and actually believed in their effectiveness. Zhou Meng started talking about the influence of age on a person, but the commander didn't want to listen to it. The girl changed the subject and asked if the Black Angel really intended to use the protagonist for his own purposes, and explained that this was just her guess. The commander explained that this guy was definitely set up for a reason. At that moment, an SUV carrying our hero was driving through the streets of the night city. Lu Man sat with a guard by his side, a bag over his head, so he couldn't see anything. The guy asked the boss irritably if they were heading to Xiangwu. He promised not to hit Yusuke because she was a woman. She looked closely at the boy, and it seemed to her that the officer was interested in her prisoner's behavior. The woman decided to approach Lu Man and sat down next to him. He was surprised because all this time he thought that Yusuke was driving the car. The boss threatened to strip the boy naked and subject him to other torture if he screamed again. The last threat uttered by the officer was to castrate our hero. Lu Man tried again to find out where he was being taken. Yusuke told the boy not to worry because he would soon see everything with his own eyes. The car was approaching a house on the outskirts of the city. Meanwhile, the school year had begun, and student life was in full swing. Teacher Lin was teaching the lesson and asked the students to open their textbook to page 89. All this time, Lu Meng was simply lazing at his desk. Xiao Shuel looked at this and longed for her lover deep in her heart. Qin Qin noticed that her friend had been acting a little strange since yesterday. At that moment, the bell rang, signaling the end of the lesson and the beginning of the break. Xiao Shui began to pack her things while the boys behind them were already playing basketball. Suddenly, Qin Qin appeared in front of her and asked about her visit to Lu Man yesterday. The girl became embarrassed and blushed when she heard the question about her lover. The friend immediately noticed Lu Mang's flushed cheeks and demanded details about his meeting with him. Chen asked if this guy had offended Xiao Shui. The girl was dreaming and thinking about what Lu Man was doing now, and her friend was embarrassed by the strange expression on the girl's face. Meanwhile, the main character was finally delivered to the military base. Yusuke was the first to gracefully exit the SUV. All the soldiers immediately greeted what turned out to be their commander. Eventually, the agents removed the bag from Lu Mang's head. He didn't understand why he was being transferred from one prison to another. Yusuke explained that it wasn't just a prison, because no one knew about it, and that it also housed a research institute. It was a place where one could meet outstanding people and gods. Lu Mang was obviously shocked to hear about human gods. The main character was greeted by a majestic building with a high tower and military personnel at the entrance. Further events will be moved to the East Ocean Group office. A courier carrying a gift box was going up to the 81st floor of the building. Then a man dressed in suspicious clothing entered the reception area. He placed a gift on the table in front of the administrator. The girl greeted the stranger and asked whose name the package was addressed to. The courier replied that the parcel was intended for the company's head, Li Chong. The administrator went to the boss's office to present the gift she had received. She was a little suspicious of this because it wasn't the head of the family's birthday, so it wasn't clear what kind of holiday gift it was. Meanwhile, Li Chong was in his office, loudly arguing with someone on the phone. The husband became furious and threatened his interlocutor with violence if he did not see his daughter within 3 days. He didn't listen to anything and quickly hung up. Finally, the head of the company allowed his secretary to enter the office. The girl noted that Li Chong had such a good life because he was simply given a gift. The man became nervous and asked his assistant to show him the package as quickly as possible. She obediently came closer and handed the box to her boss. Li Chong began to unpack the gift, and the girl silently watched the boss. Upon opening the box, the man let out an incredible scream, which frightened the secretary. The boss looked inside in fear and could not understand what was there. A bloody and severed hand was found as a gift. Events returned to the prison for mutants where the main character was held. Lu Man sat with Yusuke while one of the guards poured them water. The man did not understand what the woman meant when she spoke about gods and why he was brought here at all. The officer asked him not to worry and to drink some water. Lu Mang jumped up from his chair because he was unhappy with being brainwashed while his friend was in trouble. Yusuke became interested in his friend and asked if she was really a girl. The protagonist lied that it was his girlfriend and asked to let him in, otherwise he would not be responsible for himself. Suddenly, the officer actually let the guy go just like that. Lu Man was surprised by such a sudden change in the woman's decisions. In the end, our heroine couldn't take it anymore and wanted to hit Yusuke, despite her gender. But she didn't even move and continued to calmly drink water. Lu Man's fist flew past her face, just centimeters away. The protagonist did not understand why his attack was unsuccessful. He even felt Yusuke hit him. As a result, the woman was able to grab Lu Man's hand without any difficulty. She asked if the guy was surprised that he didn't hit her, even though he felt the touch. The protagonist immediately freed his hand from Yusuke's grip. The officer also recalled that the man ran 3 kilometers, but she still managed to track him. These strange and incredible things happened because she belonged to divine creatures. Among them, a woman bore the code name Sokol. Yusuke explained that when she first met the guy, she didn't just look at him, she left a mark. In fact, our hero didn't care whether it was a rabbit or an eagle, because he was interested in how exactly she managed to catch him. Yusuke hugged Lu Mang and explained that he was now completely hers and would never leave. At that moment, the main character understood everything. Hearing these words from the officer, he completely lost his fighting spirit. An agent entered the room, ready to strictly follow his boss's orders. She ordered that Lu Man be taken to room 18, Zone D, and forced to act according to the plan, not allowing the boy to leave the room without instructions. The main character was led into a rather cozy room with a spacious double bed. He was so tired from the recent events in his life that he lay without emotions and thoughts. Then the guy jumped out of bed because he didn't understand why he was in such a depressed state. Lu Man looked around his new home, shining with cleanliness and order. He thought about how he had just recently been in prison, and now he found himself in a mansion. Someone approached our hero and asked if he was sleeping. It was an unfamiliar girl, very similar to a nurse. In fact, it was a local doctor named Vivian. Lu Mang was very puzzled and asked where he was. Vivian didn't answer, but asked the guy to undress so she could run some tests. The girl was a little embarrassed because our hero had to undress completely. He didn't know what to say, so he remained nervously silent. Events resumed at the East Ocean Group office. Police and security guards patrolled the area, questioning employees about the incident involving the gift for the manager. The police officer assured the company's head that the hand was fake. She said there was a note inside demanding $50 million in cash to get her daughter back. The girl wanted to add something else, but another policeman entered the room. He said Officer Chen checked CCTV and found the suspect was wearing sunglasses and some kind of bandage on his face, making his face unrecognizable. Mr. Lee's patience has run out because he is surrounded by fools, and on top of that, he needs to give $50 million in cash to someone. A police officer tried to calm the angry company manager. Chen Qing thought that there was something useful in this information after all. Mr. Lee found it rather strange that the bandits had been silent for 10 days and then suddenly appeared. The police officer considered this approach to be imitative, and this opinion interested the chief. Chen Qing noted that ordinary thieves immediately put forward their conditions, but these ones waited 10 days before extorting money. She was sure that the bandits' main goal was not money, but something else. Further events unfold in the protagonist's room. After examining him, Vivian noted that this guy was truly incredible. Lu Man asked why the girl thought so. The strongest person the doctor had ever seen was Shu Lian. The main character asked what the term combat power meant, which she used in the conversation. The girl explained that Jean Jia had not assessed all of the boy's physical capabilities and then used an algorithm to calculate statistics and obtained inaccurate values. Vivian began to feel Lu Mang's body and explained that explosive power, perception, and strength are the basis of combat power. The files on the doctor's tablet contained a file with only 10 people, whose base combat strength was 3,000. Thanks to his incredible ability to regenerate, our hero's strength reached 5,000. Lu Man didn't know about his recovery skills, and Yu Suker, who entered the room, explained that she only took this guy because of that. The officer stated that she and the main character represent a completely new class of people. Eventually, the boy got dressed after a thorough examination by Vivian. The protagonist asked if he would continue to be kept under lock and key, but the women were captivated by the guy's flawless figure and did not listen to him. It wasn't hard for Yusuker to let Lu Mang go, but she was ready to ask for help. This upset the guy, so he pretended not to be interested. The officer asked what Lu Man could offer for his freedom. The protagonist promised that he would allow the woman to see his entire body. This tempting offer interested Yusuker. The guy and the policeman were heading somewhere. She asked whether Lu Man knew about the quantum computer being developed at Haidong University. The woman explained that many countries had sent their spies and international assassins, and they had all arrived in Haidong. In addition, there are many powerful mutants among these specialists. Yusuker extended her hand to the boy, hoping that he would agree to cooperate. The events shift to the highway leading to the city of Haidong, where an SUV was driven by a car with the radio on. The main character was sitting in the car and drinking coffee. The young man received an incoming call on his phone. Lu Man picked up the phone and greeted his interlocutor. It was Black Angel, who noted that she hadn't seen this guy for a long time. The protagonist called him half-woman again and asked irritably how he dared to call him that. At this moment, the thief stroked the cheek of poor Li Sijua, who was in tears. The Black Angel remembered that his dear friend Lu Man was with him. Eventually, the man stopped on the side of the road to talk to his enemy. The protagonist furiously asked what the Black Angel wanted from him. The thief actually wanted something, namely to ask the guy to put aside some money. Lu Man pressed a button on the car's dashboard to scan something. He mockingly asked if the great Black Angel was really asking him to save people. The thief guessed that the protagonist had already seen Mu Er, whom he wanted to save and fire, and promised to contact Lu Man again. Furthermore, Black Angel added that Wang Bing Lu had explained to him that a war machine could pinpoint a person's location within 1 minute, but the thief had no intention of giving Lu Mang a single chance. The interlocutor did something, and now only amazing sounds could be heard on the phone. At this point, the device has completed scanning and determined the location. It seems the Black Angel had no idea that our hero had an updated version. The events then moved to the villa where and Zhuomeng were. The girls did fitness and stretching to keep their figures in shape. At that moment, the door to the gym opened. A joyful Lu Man approached them and announced his arrival. The chief suddenly blushed when he saw his friends and how they were doing the exercises. He didn't have time to react, and blood gushed from his nose like a bullet. The girls were scared because the guy fell and his eyes started to darken. But the main character was happy with everything, because such incredible beauties were leaning over him. Finally, Lu Mang came to his senses and hugged his daughters tightly, whom he missed so much. The boy then pressed himself against and started complaining, but Zhuomeng didn't like it. The main character told the girls that he was being guarded by a large African whose fist could kill. Lu Man explained that he decided to meet the girls before going to rescue Li Si Ruo. It seemed that and Ruo Meng didn't believe the guy's story about his bodyguard. The protagonist explained that the situation was really serious, so he needed a clear plan. Ruo Meng noted that planning is her element. Our hero guessed that Black Angel's allies were located throughout Haidong, otherwise he would not have learned about Lu Meng's affairs. But the guy had already found out the thief's location, so he planned to save Li Si Ruo tomorrow. Before leaving, Lu Meng had one more thing to do. The girls asked what else he needed to do his job. Lu Meng smiled and hinted to Ruo Meng that she would like it. In fact, the girl didn't like the main character's suspicious smile. In the end, the guy asked her to cook his favorite dish, but the problem was that Ruo Meng had never cooked it. Lu Meng reassured her that, in any case, the food the girl cooked was better than the black porridge and cooked. Ruo Meng placed a plate with an appetizing-looking dish in front of the guy. The protagonist noted that it was divine and smelled like a dream. Meanwhile, and tried to cook something delicious, and Ruo Meng asked the guy what his plan was. Lu Meng ate and said that the first thing he wanted to do was disguise himself. The captain asked if the hero had really decided to pretend to be someone else. This guy planned it all out this way because no one knew about his release from prison, so Lu Meng had to change his appearance. The main character decided that the best solution would be to cut his hair very short, but the girls didn't really like this idea. Lu Meng once again used his charm and asked the girls to help him with this matter. And Ruo Meng were outraged by this request, as they did not want to take on such a big responsibility. Eventually the group went to the toilet and stood ready with scissors in her hands. The cut strands of the main character's hair gradually fell to the floor. As a result, the short haircut suited Lu Meng perfectly. Now he thought he looked like a real protagonist. The men started touching the guy's hair and said that the hairstyle was quite nice, and also couldn't stand it and joined her friend, but this angered Lu Meng. Our hero ordered the girls to be silent and listen to what he had to say. Events once again unfold in a prison for mutants. Yusuke walked through the corridors of the building with her employee. He asked the officer why Black Angel chose Lu Meng. His name was Jinx, and the young man continued to explain that the protagonist had never had contact with other mutants or trained with them. Yusuke noted that although this guy had not been trained, he was the only one who had contact with the Black Angel. Jinx asked if Lu Meng had actually seen the chief Black Angel, and the officer confirmed it, saying it was strange that he remained alive after such an encounter. The employee was surprised by such incredible facts about the main character. Meanwhile, Lu Meng himself was at Ruo Meng's villa, looking at city maps on his laptop. The Black Angel's base was located in Dua Sanctuary, but that guy still didn't know how many people were there. The Black Angel himself still had no idea that he had been caught. Lu Meng believed that everything should be done as quickly as possible while there was time. He asked, and what was the best way to find out where Li Si Ruo was and contact her? At this time, Yin Kuai Feng arrived at the villa. The girl from the doorway informed the protagonist of her arrival. The guy was glad to see her and noted that she arrived just in time. Yin Kuai Feng, like the girls around her, fell in love with Lu Meng's new hairstyle. I just got out of the shower and noticed that she had guests in the house. The protagonist introduced the girl as his teacher, who would also take part in this mission. When all the participants finally gathered together, Lu Meng decided to reveal his plan. He mentally recreated the Black Angel and showed it to his allies. There was a rather cartoonish little man on the screen. The girls looked at this and could not understand where they remembered the appearance of the Black Angel from. In the evening, Yin Kuai Feng went out into the courtyard and began to hone her skills. The girl worked hard to improve her reaction. She stood under a tree and beat at the falling leaves. Yin Kuai Feng then began to practice her strikes using the barrel, and was also stretching by the tree when the girl called her. Yin Kuai Feng wondered if the Black Angel was really that strong and invincible. The captain explained that the strength of people like this thief could not be described because they were like monsters. Moreover, this was the first time and saw Lu Meng's serious injuries after the fight with the man. At this moment, Ruo Meng came out onto the balcony and called the girls to dinner. Anna assured Yin Kuai Feng that he didn't have to worry because the protagonist had matured a lot since the last battle. After these words, the girl calmed down and believed Lu Meng. The action now moves to the press conference hall of Haidong University. The cameraman was setting up his movie camera to film the event. The presenter informed the audience that Haidong University would announce the results of its research to the world today. The boys were playing in the background, so she became embarrassed and continued talking. Meanwhile, Lu Meng sat on the sofa and watched the live broadcast. The protagonist believed that they were making such a fuss so that the Black Angel would get scared and not attack. And Ruo Meng entered the room and informed him that the weapons and equipment had been prepared. Lu Meng got up from the sofa and boldly decided to find the Black Angel so that he would pay for everything. Meanwhile, news reports indicated that Haidong University had developed a personal quantum computer. It contains hundreds of high-quality conductors, 500 pairs of quantum particles, and many other important components. And the computing power is incredible. Without exaggeration, this is a grandiose invention that can radically change the world. Zhimeng noticed that the protagonist became thoughtful after hearing about the quantum computer. Another speaker asked about the inventor of this computer, the director of the quantum physics laboratory at Haitong University. As it turned out, this professor's name was Zhao Jixiang. He congratulated everyone present and expressed his joy at the opportunity to attend this important event. The professor explained that the Panga quantum computer is just a prototype that still has some problems. Previous developments were not publicly available due to issues related to external temperature, which affected the quantum entanglement effect. Zhao Jixiang believed that this problem would soon be resolved, and pulled our hero out of this stream of information and informed him that he had to leave. Yin Kuai-feng waited for the team near the black minibus. The girl turned to Lu Meng, but he didn't react in any way. She asked the others what happened to this guy and why he didn't say a word. The main character thought and looked out the car window. This guy realized that Li Shizhou needed to be saved today because Haidong City could soon change beyond recognition. The car headed towards the exit of the villa. Yin Kuai-feng noted that there was a troop deployment area ahead. The protagonist gave the order to stick to the plan from that moment on. They arrived at the luxurious Sunset Bay Villa. Security guards stood at the gate, looking at the girls who were sitting on their phones and smoking cigarettes. Their performance was interrupted by a girl who approached and greeted the young men. It was Zhou Ming who asked the guys if they work here as security guards. The guys were immediately captivated by the girl's beauty and confirmed her suspicions. She took the cap of one of the bodyguards and seductively asked him for help in some matter. Meanwhile, An and Lu Man made their way past the guards, who were distracted by their ally. Our heroes were able to get into the villa without any problems. The protagonist was sure that this was the right place, so he was going to confidently enter the building and save his friend. Yes, there were a lot of CCTV cameras in this place, so you had to act carefully. Lu Meng took this into account and entered the villa using a drain pipe in the wall of the building. As a result, he was able to climb onto the roof and see an open window. Through this entrance, the man got inside the house without any problems. Lu Man began to look around and study the room. The protagonist noticed that the top floor of the building is not used on weekdays, and the cleaning cycle is quite long, so there are traces of strangers on the floor. He saw here many footprints of different sizes. The man analyzed the tracks and determined that they were the tracks of 2 men and 1 woman, and that the woman had resisted while walking there. Suddenly, someone turned on the light in another room. Our hero noticed that the room opposite was brightly lit and froze for a second. He understood that this was very bad and could interfere with his plan. It turned out that Li Shi Ruo had just come out of the bathroom. Because of such a girl, Lu Man, as always, had a severe nosebleed. Shi Ruo was very embarrassed and almost screamed. The main character mentally begged her not to shout at the whole house. After thinking about it, he exploded and rushed towards the girl. Suddenly, the guy bumped into something and started falling. It so happened that during the flight, Lu Man touched the towel that covered his friend's body. Finally, our hero tore off his blindfold, and Li Si Ruo's completely naked body appeared before the guy's eyes. The girl had already blushed from this development of events, but still did not scream. In the end, Li Si Ruo couldn't bear it any longer and screamed loudly throughout the villa. Lu Meng unceremoniously grabbed the naked girl before anyone could come running after hearing her scream. She called her savior a pervert and demanded that he let her go. The protagonist had already heard someone give the order to go and see what it was. Lu Man immediately rushed towards her, holding the naked Li Si Ruo in his arms. He ran into the girl's temporary bedroom. The protagonist quickly laid Li Shi Ruo on the bed and covered her with a blanket. He stood over her for a few seconds, looking into her closed eyes. In the end, Shi Ruo realized that Lu Meng was her savior. Meanwhile, our hero leaned very close to his girlfriend's face, causing her to become embarrassed again. The guy came up to her ear and whispered that she was supposedly afraid of cockroaches. He quickly jumped to the floor and hid under the bed. It was at this moment that Black Angel employees ran into the room. Li Shi Ruo had already understood the plan of action, so she looked at these men with disgust. She asked irritably what they had forgotten and ordered them to leave her room. One of the employees explained that the boss heard the girl scream and told them to check everything. The second man ordered his partner to be quiet. He noted that they simply decided to check if Ms. Li was safe after hearing the scream. The girl called the guards the biggest danger in this villa and lied that she only saw a cockroach. A man with an evil grin on his face offered to inspect the room for insects so that they would no longer bother the young woman. Li Shiruan noted that the men wanted to take advantage of this opportunity, but the Black Angel employee still tried to make excuses. Lu Man watched this conversation carefully from under the bed. He realized that it would be difficult to get out of here. Without the girl's permission, the guards began to search the room. At the end of the inspection, the men remembered that they hadn't looked under the bed. Li Sijua threatened them that she would tell everything to the boss if they did not leave the room immediately. Meanwhile, Lu Meng already had his pistol at the ready. This guy already has his gun pointed at his potential rivals. But such preparation was not necessary, because the men understood everything and left Shizhua alone. The girl stood up and slammed the door of her room. She stood at the entrance for a while, and then returned to the unexpected guest. Li Sijua came over and told the protagonist to leave because the guards had already left. Lu Man nimbly crawled out from under the bed, which was located right under her friend's feet. She was frightened by such a sudden movement, and the guy was able to examine her body from a different angle. Of course, the girl didn't like this and called our hero disgusting. Eventually, they calmed down and began to discuss an escape plan. Lu Man was a little offended that his girlfriend beat him, but despite this, he decided to ask her if she knew how many bandits there were in this villa. Li Shi Ruo explained that she was brought here unconscious and woke up on the 3rd floor, so she didn't know what was happening on the 1st and 2nd floors. The protagonist carefully analyzed the situation and came to the conclusion that there could be from 4 to 7 guards, or maybe more. The soundproofing in this villa was quite good, so he was unable to estimate the number of voices on the lower floors. Li Sijua suggested that they escape now before the bandits noticed Lu Meng's presence, as she believed there were quite a few guards there. She asked if this guy really came to save her. The protagonist mockingly told the girl not to think that she was the main reason. He came to save his girlfriend because these scumbags had dragged innocent people into this business, and the main purpose of his visit was to deal with the boss. Li Shizhuo believed that an ordinary high school student would not be able to deal with the bullies living on the lower floors. The girl begged to be taken out of there and let her father and the police deal with the bandits. But Lu Man did not listen to her and was already weaving a rope from a sheet. The guy asked his girlfriend to find more clothes and blankets if she still wanted to leave. The main character lowered a homemade rope from the room's window. From above, he tied the rope tightly to the radiator under the window. Lu Man ordered Shi Ruo to go downstairs because our hero's friend was already waiting for her there, but the girl continued to worry about the guy's fate. The protagonist calmed his girlfriend down and asked her to wait for his return from the mission. He explained that towards the end the girl was noticed by security, so she needed to get down to the ground as quickly as possible. Lu Man left the girl and boldly went to carry out his task, to destroy the Black Angel. Li Shi Ruo looked at her savior's back for the last time. The main character had already taken out his weapon and was ready for any skirmish. The girl wondered who her brave and at the same time strange friend really was. The man was already standing on the steps leading to the lower floors. In the living room, he met the guards entering Li Sijua's room. The stupid man and the couple asked his partner why they didn't tie the girl up and keep an eye on her, as the boss ordered. His friend remarked that the man had better not think with his chicken brain, because the same thing could happen to their charge. At this moment, Li Shizhua could be seen from the living room window, skillfully descending using a homemade rope. She was a little nervous, as this was her first time descending from a fairly significant height. However, the girl could not stand and slipped off the rope with one foot. Shi Ruo was frightened by this turn of events and could not bear it, causing her to scream. The bandits heard this and wondered what happened to this disobedient girl. One of them suggested that the scream was heard from outside the building. The guard decided to go out and check the street, and Lu Man waited for the right moment. At this moment, the protagonist realized that Miss Li was truly very dear to him. The bandits were just passing by the steps, but that guy was already gone. It turned out that Lu Man decided to scare the men in order to buy time for his girlfriend. Out of fear, one of the bandits instantly threw himself into the arms of his comrade. Meanwhile, the Black Angel was relaxing at his villa, unaware of what was happening to his hostage. He had a meeting with an old friend named Kim. The man thought that she had been sent to Haidong to carry out some important task. Kim jokingly asked why she couldn't just come to the Black Angel without any special reason. The woman thought that her friend did not want to see her and was not happy about their meeting. The Black Angel noticed how quickly her mood changed and assured Kim that he was glad to have her present as a guest. At that moment, the man's phone vibrated, indicating an incoming call. He apologized to his friend because the call was important. The Black Angel ordered that they be treated very well and said that he would arrive at the place soon. Meanwhile, at the villa where our heroes were located, the security had already learned about the people who had broken in. One of them used a radio to call for help from additional fighters, although there were already quite a lot of them. A group of security guards armed with batons stormed the building in a fairly organized manner. They stood at the door of one of the rooms and tensely awaited the further actions of the uninvited guests. Then one of the bandits jumped out of the room, and the guard was pinned to the open door. The blow was so strong that the man flew back to the opposite wall. The guards were shocked and frightened by such force and did not understand what was happening in this villa. The beaten bandit lay on the floor, trembling and not even moving. Finally, he found the strength to point out the offender. The man explained that it was in this room that the spy was located. Then the bandit's accomplice fell unconscious at the feet of the guards. Lu Meng walked out of the room and sarcastically praised the Black Angel guards. The bandit, gathering his last strength, ordered the guards to attack the main character. Black Angel employees attacked the guy, grabbing him by the sticks. He was itching for a fight and wanted to have a little fun with the weak guards. The first man to fall under Lu Meng's hand received a strong blow to the face and a broken nose. Moreover, he flew a long distance, which frightened all the guards. The security guard was unlucky because on the way he came across a window through which he flew out. After the protagonist fell victim to the first victim, the men were no longer so eager and did not rush into battle so desperately. It was at this moment that he first felt his mutant power. The guards also noticed that something was wrong, because a person could not possess such incredible strength. Suddenly, the next man attacked Lu Meng, shouting that he was not afraid of our hero. The guy didn't even flinch, expecting an attack, but simply extended his powerful fist forward. In the end, this attacker also received a blow from Lu Meng. The other guards watched the fight from the sidelines in horror. After receiving the blow, the man flew up and ended up hitting his head on the ceiling. Then all the guards became very scared and began to consider the main character a real monster. Lu Meng threateningly asked them if anyone else wanted to fight him. The people were so desperate that they went out into the yard to continue the fight. The men flew off in different directions one after another, receiving numerous blows from the main character. The remaining guards looked at the man with fear. Lu Meng grabbed his next defeated opponent by the collar. He threw the man like trash into the bushes near the villa. The protagonist ordered one of the bodyguards to tell the Black Angel that he would find him sooner or later. However, a large armed group was already approaching the villa, ready to provide its security. The guard ordered everyone to shoot at the main character, as he was sure that he would not be able to dodge the bullets. Lu Meng's face didn't even flinch, even though his life was in danger. The guy was instantly bombarded with countless balls. Our hero didn't pay attention to this and decided to hide behind a tree trunk. Now the tree had taken the brunt of the blow, and he was safe. Reflecting on this, Lu Meng noted that the Black Angel's cross-eyed arrows only confirmed his strength in the East China Sea. Someone greeted the main character through an earpiece. He asked his interlocutor if any emergency had arisen. Yun Kuai Feng asked the boy if the gunshots she heard in the direction of the villa were a normal occurrence. Lu Meng reported that Black Angel's men had tremendous firepower, so they needed to act as soon as Miss Li arrived in the car. The girl was outraged by the guy's order because she did not want to leave him surrounded by so many armed people. Meanwhile, our hero was attacked with a grenade launcher. The projectile approached Lu Meng's warehouse at incredible speed. The main character managed to notice how quickly the end of his days was approaching, falling on the tree. On the other hand, Yin Kuai Feng now only heard noise. The girl nervously looked in the direction where Lu Meng was. The shell hit the tree behind which our hero was hiding, and it caught fire. Eventually, it fell, and the guards carefully examined the place where the main character should have been. They were happy because they thought they had finally managed to eliminate their invincible opponent. Security forces rushed to check on the wounded Lu Meng, but he was not found under the tree. The guards began to search for our hero, and he watched them from the branch of a nearby tree. He waited a bit, and then deftly jumped down toward his opponents. This guy called them to show them that they should look for him in a completely different place. The people from the Black Angel squad were shocked that Lu Meng remained unharmed after being attacked with a grenade launcher. They began to nervously reload their weapons to continue the fight. The protagonist did not wait and took advantage of the moment when the guards were defenseless against his attacks. With his incredibly precise and powerful strikes, this guy quickly dealt with a crowd of armed security officers. Lu Meng stood among his fallen enemies, and the villa guards panicked because they didn't even have firearms. This guy suggested that they surrender together so as not to waste time. Suddenly, the Black Angel's voice was heard, finally reaching his villa. The protagonist immediately reacted and looked at his main enemy with anger. The thief and his assistant approached Lu Meng. The Black Angel said with a smile that he guessed he would find a guy here. Meanwhile, Li Sijua was desperately trying to escape from captivity. The girl ran so fast and was so nervous that she began to breathe heavily. She stopped at a tree to rest because she could not run any longer. Shi Ruan noticed that she hadn't been able to meet the person Lu Meng had spoken of for a long time. Suddenly, someone came up to the girl from behind and covered her mouth with his hand. The Black Angel noticed changes in the main character's appearance, namely a new hairstyle, which he found quite cute. Lu Man noted that his enemy was becoming more and more effeminate each time, and now he was disgusted by beating a subhuman. The enemies smiled and looked boldly into each other's eyes, preparing for the decisive battle. The Black Angel took off his jacket for convenience and gave it to Ling Ling. He loosened his tie and suggested that our hero begin the bloodshed. There was not a drop of fear in the opponent's eyes. They simultaneously rushed towards the enemy to strike the first blow. Lu Ming and Black Angel were already one step away from starting a bloody battle. They clasped their hands together and loudly clapped their hands. The incredible strength of the opponents sent a shock wave across the field. Ling Ling noted with displeasure that men loved to exaggerate everything. Black Angel and Lu Man stood there, holding hands and staring at each other. In fact, the thief didn't expect the protagonist to attack him so quickly. The Black Angel praised the boy's strength, but still did not believe that he could defeat him. Lu Man decided to attack first and already extended his leg to strike. The enemy immediately noticed the main character's quick move. Eventually, the boy landed the first blow, but the Black Angel managed to dodge the attack. The enemy began to mock the fact that our hero could not reach him. But Lu Meng was not stupid, so he did not lose his head and grab the enemy by the tie. He smiled at the Black Angel and abruptly pushed the man to the ground. The thief could only fall to the floor without a word. Lu Meng threw his opponent's body to the ground with all his might. Meanwhile, another group of guards searched the villa grounds for Li Sijua. One of them said he saw the girls go in the other direction, but in fact they were watching the security forces from the bushes nearby. The person who approached Miss Li from behind turned out to be Anna. The captain explained to Shijua that she was Lu Man's friend and was going to take the girl away from here. The girl was worried because her savior remained inside and had most likely already been caught, and explained that for Lu Meng these were small things and he would definitely overcome all obstacles. This still didn't calm Li Sijua down, because this guy's opponents were armed. Anna covered the girl's mouth again because she started speaking too loudly, as the guards were very close. Eventually, the Black Angel's men retreated from the area where the girls were. They waited a little in their hiding place until the guards moved away from them. Anna extended her hand to her companion to finally continue the journey. She explained that her job was to protect Li Sijua and that the gun acted like a water pistol on him. In fact, Miss Li didn't understand a word of what her savior's friend said. Meanwhile, the protagonist sat over the Black Angel, who was striking the pot. He wondered if his opponent was even alive. The Black Angel lay unconscious in the pot and did not answer the guy's questions. Lu Meng already thought that he had gone too far, and that his opponent was an ordinary person who was not capable of withstanding such a powerful attack. Suddenly, someone approached the main character from behind and, after greeting him, put their hand on his shoulder. The guy was annoyed that someone was bothering him because he was busy with the dead Black Angel. But after a few seconds, Lu Man realized that it was a painfully familiar voice. The Black Angel asked what his opponent was doing that was so important. The protagonist reacted instantly to the threat, and his opponent stood over his own corpse. Lu Meng couldn't figure out what the hell was going on with the Black Angel's cloning. The thief laughed slyly when he saw how his tricks worked against his opponent. The Black Angel knelt down and leaned over his own corpse, and the protagonist became interested in this action. He began to suck the energy out of his clone. Lu Meng was surprised to see his opponent's true abilities. The Black Angel revealed his true power, and an ominous atmosphere surrounded him. The thief, with an unkind smile on his face, congratulated the protagonist on his new world. Events are now being moved to the rear entrance of the villa grounds, and Li Shi Ruo were waiting for the moment when they could finally leave the territory unhindered. Yin Kuai-feng gestured for the girls to come over to her. The car was already fully prepared and waiting for her and Li Shi Ruo. The captain loaded the gasping Miss Li into the rescue vehicle. Yin Kuai-feng asked if Master Man should be with girls. Anna believed that the protagonist would have to deal with several pawns inside the villa and reach the meeting place. Li Shi Ruo was very worried about this guy because the guards definitely had weapons, but the girls just laughed at her worries. The girl didn't understand why they were having so much fun, since the Black Angel security forces could easily kill the main character. Yin Kuai-feng stated that her friend definitely couldn't be that weak, so he would easily deal with his opponents. The girl suggested that Miss Lee get into the car and go because her father was looking forward to her arrival, and asked Yin Kwai Fong to take Li Si Rua to her father first, while she herself was going to help Lu Man. She stood for a few seconds and looked at the car. The captain knew that the Black Angel was a vile person, so she hoped that the protagonist would not commit any rash acts. Meanwhile, the Black Angel had already taken off his dangerous tie. He explained to Lu Mang that he could now see the real world. Our hero pretended not to be surprised by his opponent's abilities and explained that he simply had no idea that the Black Angel was a mutant. The guy suggested continuing the fight, but now with a completely different approach. The Black Angel liked this change in the protagonist's mood at this moment and ran with all her might to help Lu Mang. The earpiece in her ear vibrated, signaling a problem, and was irritated that the device had decided to break down right now, at the most inopportune moment. Suddenly, one of Black Angel's bulls blocked the captain's path. The husband was delighted that he was finally able to hunt the so-called local wildcat. The other guards began to surround Anna, holding their batons at the ready. The strongest of them lustfully declared that he did not want to spoil the wildcat's face. The captain didn't wait for further action and hit the guard right in the chest with her elbow. Having dealt with this warrior, she immediately moved on to his comrades. Anna hit the man so hard that he flew off to one side with a bloody nose and his cap ended up in another place. She told that idiot that he wouldn't even be able to touch her face. Meanwhile, reinforcements from other security units were sent after our thief. She didn't realize how many more obstacles the Black Angel's minions had to overcome before they were finally put to an end. Meanwhile, the Black Angel himself has already missed one blow from the main character. Lu Man struck his opponent straight in the temple. The puzzled thief stood there and was unable to respond to his opponent's attacks. The guy turned sharply and kicked the Black Angel in the head. Lu Man twisted his opponent with his blows, causing him to become very disoriented. Finally, the exhausted Black Angel fell back onto the lawn. The protagonist was now confident that this man was no longer his enemy. But the Black Angel was still very persistent. Tom rose from the ground. Enraged, Lu Mang decided to throw an even bigger bouquet at the thief because of the unbearable pain. In fact, Black Angel had expected more from this guy and mockingly remarked that he seemed to have overestimated him. The protagonist realized how disgusting the Black Angel was. Suddenly, Lu Man's earpiece finally worked and tried to contact him. The girl reported that Li Si Zhou had been rescued and was now safe. She believed that their mission was accomplished and the protagonist could return home with peace of mind. But Lu Mang had no intention of doing this because Black Angel had no personal guards in Haidong and could be caught, and knew the thief had to be caught, but definitely not now. Our hero believed that he was one step away from the admiration of the Black Angel and that he had everything under control, and started yelling at him, claiming that she was the only one in control of the situation, so she ordered Lu Mang to drop everything and come back. The protagonist did not understand why he should do this, because now he had a great opportunity to catch the main thief. Anna then began giving him orders on behalf of the commander and demanded that he leave the battlefield. In the end, the protagonist decided to simply turn off the earpiece and not listen to the commander. The Black Angel noted that it was the right decision because they had no business listening to women and being influenced by them. Lu Mang turned around and appeared to be about to go to his classes for the day. The protagonist said that his opponent can play his games with himself. The Black Angel smiled and remarked that he had heard about the beauty of the girls from Haidong Middle School, where Lu Man studied. With a mad smile on his lips, he asked the guy if he should smash the heads of all the beauties. These words influenced the protagonist, so he did not continue. The Black Angel went mad and was going to kill everyone who was there. For a few seconds, our hero disappeared from the enemy's sight. A few seconds later, he appeared before the Black Angel and assured him that he would kill the thief first. Enraged, Lu Mang punched his enemy in the jaw with all his might. From such a powerful blow, the Black Angel soared into the sky. The protagonist, enraged to the limit, pushed off the ground and jumped on the enemy to continue striking. While still in flight, Lu Mang managed to kick the Black Angel so hard that it fell to the ground at high speed. Eventually, the thief fell head first onto the ground. Apparently he liked it, so he ordered Lu Mang to continue the attack. The Black Angel continued to insist furiously and wanted the protagonist to kill him. The guy complied with his opponent's strange demands without being asked and continued beating him without stopping. He beat him so hard that dust rose up around him, and only the sounds of Lu Mang's blows could be heard in the villa. In the end, the Black Angel lay unconscious at the protagonist's feet. After such a series of attacks, the thief's face was completely disfigured. Then Lu Mang decided that he had finally fulfilled his mission and could leave in peace. This guy wanted to leave his main enemy to rot right here on the lawn. It turned out that the Black Angel was a tough nut to crack and was still conscious. He jumped up because he didn't understand why Lu Meng left him here without killing him. The thief continued to mock the protagonist for being weak because he couldn't kill him. Lu Meng could not bear it any longer and decided to deal his opponent a decisive blow. This guy put so much power into the attack that the Black Angel was simply blown to pieces. Now all that was left of the thief was his legs, but it looked like he had used his double again. Lu Meng looked with disgust at the lower body that remained of his opponent. The Black Angel's power spreads in all directions from his doppelganger's feet. Having defeated the enemy, the protagonist decided to turn to his assistant Lin Lin for help. He asked the girl to convey to her master a request not to waste his time on useless matters. Lu Meng wanted to prevent Black Angel from using a stunt double to take the hit next time. Ling Ling listened to her teacher's main enemy with a smile. As a result, the main character was able to return home with peace of mind. All this time, the surviving Black Angel stood under the tree next to Ling Ling. The assistant thought that perhaps the owner should not have let his enemy go so easily. Suddenly, the man asked her what wisdom said about the dragon. He explained that there's a saying that by fighting dragons for as long as possible, you gradually become a dragon yourself. The image of the mad Lu Meng appeared in Black Angel's mind, who, in his opinion, incredibly wanted to kill him. This primal evil was exactly what the thief wanted to see in a duel with this guy. Meanwhile, the protagonist was almost ready to leave the villa. Suddenly, someone jumped up next to him with incredible speed. Lu Man immediately reacted to the movement next to him. As a result, he immediately grabbed Anne's hand, who mistook the guy for a security guard. Seeing a familiar face, the commander was incredibly happy. In honor of this event, she hugged Lu Man, almost suffocating the poor guy, and was very worried whether Lu Mang would be able to emerge from the battle unscathed. But the guy turned out to be unstoppable, so he managed to do so without any problems. Suddenly, a large number of police cars drove up to the gates of the villa. All the police officers got out of their cars and immediately pointed their guns at our heroes. Their chief explained that the police had received reports of shootings and fights in the area, so it was indeed a matter of law. Lu Man and immediately raised their hands, and the boy began to explain that he was only a third grader at Haidong Middle School, and that the kidnappers had been neutralized and were inside. The police officer noted that our hero was a really good guy, so the man wanted to talk to him at the station. Now the events unfold at the police station where our heroes have been taken, and Lu Man sat in handcuffs, each awaiting interrogation. The main character scoffed at the fact that everything happened for the first time in life, including being treated like thieves, but Anna didn't like it and was sure that this was her first and last time. The officer came out to them and asked the boy if his name was really Lu Man. The problem was that our hero was considered a prison escapee, so the man advised him not to even think about escaping this time. The protagonist was unhappy that Wang Air had not yet deleted the recording of the prison escape. Mr. Li came up and asked the officer not to frighten the poor child. Lu Man jumped up joyfully and demanded that the man explain everything to the police. Mr. Li explained that the guy's case had been reviewed and he had been acquitted, but now our hero would have to pay a fine for escaping from prison. The protagonist confirmed that everyone should be punished, and the harsher the punishment, the better.